All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Straight Talk. I'm going to have to admit it that here in the Dominican Republic, we often and sometimes a lot have blackouts. So Tuesday night, normally I would be on at 8, and it came on perfectly. There was no problem. But later on that night, I did not do what I was supposed to do, making sure that the internet was okay and I would be running without a problem. And that was my fault. So tonight I'm going to be covering what I was going to cover on Tuesday night, try to finish that. Then on a regular day, on Saturday at 8, I will be on again. So tonight we're going to be looking at quite a few things that is happening rather quickly. There's no ifs, ands, or buts in my mind about what is going on with Africa and the world. Africa has taken control of the Suez Canal. Now, as you may know, um, the black man ruled the seven seas, without a doubt. That is our historical narrative and truth. And just recently, Africa, as a United States of Africa, had taken control of the Suez Canal. What that means is that whatever is going on in the Middle East is not going to be going on anymore. The trade route will be all for the benefit of Africa. Now, with Iran, Iraq, uh, other countries in that particular region, they formed an alliance with the United States of Africa on trade and on the protection of that particular area. Now, I did cover that Tuesday night, so you can go back and look at that particular video. It's about a half an hour, hour and a half long before it got cut off because of um, the blackout. So there's no more blackout. So with that being said, I just want to make sure that you guys are up to speed on what is going on. But tonight, we're going to be covering what I feel is a must. And, well, let me get this up and running, share the screen. So I really wanted to pay attention to two videos that I found to be rather disturbing. And the fact that, hold on, and the fact that Africa is changing, you guys. As I pointed out on Tuesday night, uh, his name is Neil Tyson deGrasse or something like that, the astronomer, very well known astronomer or astrologer, not astrologer, but astronomer and a physician as far as physics go. And he was saying point blank that Africa is the future. But what I found to be disturbing is what Amazing Lucas did with two people that I got in contact with on Twitter and found, and hopefully they'll come on, but I doubt it. I found their response to white supremacy to be a go along to get along. Whatever nuts and boats and cakes and whatever they feel they're getting from going along with white supremacy in support of the downing or the um, how do you put that? Yeah, well, the downing of Black America is as if they have no sense of their own history, and they don't. People who do this do it because they actually believe that they are inferior to white folks. Now, this is the one where this, and I like this guy. I give him a lot of credit. He just say it out loud. I'm black and I'm proud, and I'm not going to allow this idiot, this clown, to say and do what he said and did without a serious backlash. So I'm gonna. It's about 20 minutes long, and all the other ones are about 8 to 10 minutes. But I really wanted to make this one to be the first one that you guys will hear. It's just shocking that we are still at this level of mentality. Like I always say, fuck all white folks. I give no fucks. We don't need them. They need us. Now I'll be right back.
Going over and having a reaction video to the 1 versus 20 Jubilee video when they were talking about reparations and Black American history and whatnot. It seems that I may have said a few terse words, a little, a colorful language into in regards to one of the individuals, the Angolan, okay? And it got back to him, and he made a post about this. And you know what? After doing some reflection and seeing ways that I could have improved what I said, I just want to make an apology. And I would like to apologize to absolutely fucking nobody. That's correct. I'm not apologizing for anything that I said. Everything that I said is 100% accurate in that live stream. Everything that I said we should do is 100% what I believe we should do. 100%. The fact that this goofball is going to come here from South Africa, come over here and look for employment as a Steven from Django.
I miss you like a hog miss fly.
That's what you doing? You looking for employment as Raccoon? That lets me know that you have no future. And here's the thing. We've come across people like this before. I remember, what's his name? I can't remember, the little goofy dude that was doing the same exact thing. I understand there is a business employing raccoons here in this country. There is a business in employing Sambos here in this country. There is a business behind anti-blackness in this country. But rest assured, Black Americans have got to put an end to it. So when this fool goes and put out a tweet talking about, oh, he proved my point, we need to have discussion, that if I say something that you don't like, you just want to go to violence. Let me just say this. The fact of the matter is, I have nothing to say to your Angolian butt. That's what I have to say. Go back to Angola, okay? What you should do is make Angola great again. How about that? Don't come over here to Black American territory trying to tell us how we're wrong and how we're not oppressed and how there is no redlining. Take your goofy butt, take you and your parents. As a matter of fact, we need to find out where you live so we can call ICE to make sure you are actually a citizen, to make sure that your visa hasn't expired, because you probably shouldn't be here to begin with, okay? I need to go back in my phone and call Trump and be like, listen, I found one, all right? That's what needs to happen, because you need to take your little goofy self, your little anti-Black, Sambo, tap dancing, minstrel self, and go back to Angola.
like a baby. Miss Mammy Titty.
Go make Angola great again. Matter of fact, maybe I'll go to Angola. That's what I'll do. And I'll tell the Angola people of how lazy they are. Why y'all got dirt roads? Don't y'all want to lift yourself up by the bootstrap? Don't you want to be better? Why y'all? Don't you see how the Black Americans are killing it? Why y'all want to be poor over here? Just stop being poor. Why don't you lift yourself up by the bootstraps? You know, the Chinese, why you have to depend on the Chinese to build your railroads? Why you have to depend on the Chinese to build your infrastructure? Why do you have to depend on them? Aren't you guys Angolan? Huh? Can't you guys lift up your community? How about I go and do something like that? Huh? Wouldn't that be nice? Would I go? How about we start making visits to every African area, every African city, country, everywhere, okay? We go to Nigeria, we go to Kenya, we go to all these places, and we become the anti-Blacks of Nigeria, the anti-Blacks of Kenya, and see how that benefits as far as the native people of that land. I bet y'all probably wouldn't like that. So you're going to have to riddle me this, why y'all would send a goofball like this over here with his goofball parents, okay? Because it's a lineage of evil. That's what that is. Just so we're clear, he is a lineage of evil. Come over here to be what? A minstrel show? That's as best as you can do, pimpin'? Huh? Is that, I'm trying to understand, is it so bad over where you come from that the height, the pinnacle of success is to be a white ignorance bootstrap? Huh? Is to be a white ignorance floor mat so you can be tapped in?
This is how Kittle can help you take one idea and target multiple print-on-demand niches. Kittle is so easy and
dancing and chucking and jiving, do jazz hands. Is that what it is? Is it that bad over there? If you don't miss me with this nonsense, I got nothing to say to you goofies that are coming over here from other countries. Whether it's Dinesh D'Souza, whether it's Patrick David, whether it's this goofball, there's a lot of y'all. Tulsi Gabbard, the list goes on. Okay, y'all come over here and y'all promote this anti-black hatred. Y'all come over here and y'all think that if you change your name, okay, Nikki Haley, that if you change your name and you just get in line with the racism here, that you'll be okay, that you'll go unscathed. And you got a newsflash, bro. You got a newsflash. So everything I said, 100%, because I want to let you, I want people to tell me where I'm wrong, okay? You tell me when Ben Shapiro has ever debated a Nazi. You tell me a Jewish person that has ever debated a Nazi or debated a Holocaust denier. You tell me how they have platformed these people. You tell me when that has happened. I don't recall it ever. Okay, I don't recall it ever. Because when you do something like that, what do? There is strict and swift consequences. Your bank account's frozen. You never work in the industry again. You can't get a job anywhere. You are finito. You are donezo. All right? So that's all I'm saying. When it comes to goofies like this Angolian, all right, and his family, they shouldn't be able to work anywhere. There should be constant round-the-clock protests to the point that they have to go back to South Africa. Damn, that's what should happen. They should have to take their passport or ICE come and get them and kick their butts out of here. That's what should happen. Because I'm not going to sit down and debate and converse. Why don't you have discourse? No, you can miss me with this nonsense. I'm not having discourse with a Nazi. I'm not having a discourse with a white supremacist. I'm not having discourse with a Klansman. You can miss me with this nonsense. They expect us to constantly deal with uncivil people in a civil manner. We saw what happened when they wanted, hey, no taxation without representation. We saw what these mofos did. How is it that every group of people have responded in violence or like so? But when it comes to Black Americans, we can't. Okay, because here's the real hustle. They're always going to see you as a violent person. They're always going to see you as the N-word. They're always going to see you as less than. So when you have people who try to hold that against you, well, I would have listened to you, but you curse too much. Well, I would have listened to you, but I can't listen to someone who dresses like that. That is respectability politics, and that is bullcrap. Because at the end of the day, they don't care for Jasmine Crockett, and they don't care for Barack Obama. Okay, but at the end, but what they will praise and celebrate is this goofball, this white ignorant in the White House who's cursing up a storm, who's destroying the economy, and they'll praise every single thing he does. They'll praise a rapist, a pedophile rapist, okay, on Epstein Island and everything, but they'll say, oh, Barack Obama, I'm not voting for him. They'll try and say, oh, Jasmine Crockett is ghetto, even though she's more educated than the majority of these ignorants. Okay, so please don't fall for that. Please don't try and make them feel like, oh, you should have done this. If I'd only done this, maybe they would have accepted me. That'll never happen. And just go back to as far as the words of action, not violence, but action. Yes, I think this Angolan should be kicked to the moon. Matter of fact, I go on to say in the live stream that he should be sent directly to the sun.
He's out of line, but he's right.
That's what should happen to anti-black racists. That's what should happen to white supremacists. That's what should happen to Nazis. We can add anti-Semitic to the list. That's 100% what should happen to those people, because you are trying to single-handedly undermine the country. You are trying to destroy the country. You are not trying to make it better. You're trying to make it worse. You are trying to take us back to where we were, okay? Instead of trying to progress us and move us forward to a united country. We can't do that when we have Nazis. We can't do that with people saying, well, there was no redlining. We can't do that with people saying, well, there was no Holocaust. We can't do that, bro. That's not happening. So as I said before, no, we are not going to give any form of credibility by sitting down with an anti-black Sambo minstrel, okay, and debating, oh, we're going to debate whether systemic racism existed. We're going to debate whether redlining existed. No, what we do is we put you in a box and we ship you to the sun. Damn, that's what should happen, 100%. And I don't want to hear from anyone, okay? Because whether you Jewish, Muslim, Christian, doesn't matter, all right? Old Testament, New Testament. That God killed women, children, and men because their hearts were so hardened. Hell, you look at what he did to Pharaoh. He tried to give them chances. He tried to give them chances. Have we not given chances to the lineage of evil? Have we not? Huh? Have we not constantly tried to, well, what do we do this? What do we negotiate? How about this? Well, I know reparations really isn't a handout. Have we not? What happened eventually? Eventually, God said, you know what? We're going to yeet the firstborn. That's what we're going to do. And the firstborn died. All right? Firstborn died. Killed children. Killed men. Killed women. That's what happened. So you can miss me with this ability and just, well, if we just pray really hard, maybe they'll stop lynching us. If we just pray really hard, maybe they'll stop killing us unjustifiably. If we just pray really hard, maybe the laws will just magically change. You can miss me with this nonsense. What needs to happen is action. And the best way to communicate with these people is how they've been communicating with us. They communicated with us with Breonna Taylor. They communicated with us with Elijah McClain. And they communicated with us with Willie McCoy, Trayvon Martin, George Floyd. And every single time they communicated with us, whose fault was it? Was it their fault? No, it was our fault. Even when they were protesting, oh, that's horrible what happened to George Floyd. They got to thinking like, wait, hold up. That was a black person. What am I doing protesting a black person? I don't know what I was thinking. And what do? They come now to say that, hey, Derek Chauvin is innocent. He was wrongfully imprisoned. You can't trust these demons, bro. And I don't know how many people need to hear this. They've shown us their true colors time and time again. And for whatever reason, you Negroes reading the slave Bible or something, I'm going to turn the other cheek. Oh, you know what? I'll let God forgive them. No, that's not how that works. Even God didn't do that. God knew that these people were so evil. Bro, it got to a point where he flooded the earth, fam. All right? So you can miss me with this pacifism or whatever y'all got. You have to fight fire with fire. Okay? Because if you don't, you're going to be consumed. That's what
No, I don't believe that. Fighting fire with fire, no. You fight fire with water and drown a motherfucking ass. That's what they do. So I understand what they're talking about, but to quench fire, you need water. And I mean drown a motherfucking ass.
What does it say? Hey, how does evil win if good men do nothing?
Wake up, nigga.
It's as simple as that. And how do they get this country? They didn't get this country through, well, let's have civil discourse. We got it through a war. We didn't get as far as freedom through, well, let's have civil discourse. They got it through a civil war. And even then, they still try and lie and say, well, the Civil War was for us to free the blacks. That's what it is. No, it was for you to preserve the Union and the other people for them to keep their slaves. Instead, miss me with this nonsense. Everything. What happened? Because you have to see this. Martin Luther King Jr., they loved quoting his butt, but they killed him nonetheless. Did they not? Did they not? He wasn't doing anything. Hey, we're going to rise up and kill these people and kill the cracker. He wasn't saying anything like that. They killed him just as fast as they killed Malcolm X. They killed him just as fast as they killed Fred Hampton. These fools will destroy an entire block to get one Negro. They will carpet bomb an entire block. This is what you're dealing with. So when you have these buffoons, these minstrels that are being imported here, no, you address them how you need to address them. You address them as God addresses evil. You address them as a lineage of evil, as a wicked person sent here to destroy the country, to destroy your livelihood, to destroy everything you seek as precious. This man has come out talking about, oh, yeah, I'm the new Jesse Lee Peterson.
If you want to say that I'm the new Jesse Lee Peterson, I am. Cry about it.
Beta. This is who they are, bruh. There is no giving them, well, maybe he's just, misinformed. No, this is a lineage of evil. As he says, he got these ideas from his parents. And his parents probably got them from the black Sambos that are already here. We have got to have a filtering that goes on. And it seems the only group of people that can't filter, that can't chastise their own, are black people. Jews will be the first one to say, hey, you're a self-hating Jew. If you ever see a Jewish person talk about, oh, no, the people in Palestine, that is rightfully theirs, they should stay here, you'll have a million Jews talking about, you don't know what you're talking about. How can you say that? You're a Jew.
I'm from Israel. Zionism is a political movement which is causing bloodshed. We're family. It's from Israel. This is because the actions of the Zionist people. They are responsible for the for hundreds of years.
How can you say that you're not a Jew? You're not a Jew. How dare you? How can you say that you're Jewish? How can you shame your own people?
You have a white person, right? Remember when they had what's her name? I forgot her name. Who came on with white fragility? All the white ignorants were screaming and crying. All of them. Oh my God! I can't believe she would say that. It's always our fault. It's always whitey fault. What do? They actually torched her butt. But when it comes to black people, and we say, hey, this person is a Sambo. He's a self-hating black person. He's a minstrel show. What do they say to? Well, it's called independent think. It's called a free thinker, Lucas. Okay, he's just an independent free thinker. All right, that's what you have to understand. Well, when we see Larry Elder, that's a coon. All he's doing is tap dancing for white dollars, for white Jewish dollars on top of that. Well, why do you always have to name Cole? Okay, that's an ad hominem attack. And when you say an ad hominem attack, that means you can't fight back his ideas. All right, why is that? You ever notice that? You ever notice that when we try to censor our own, censor the anti-blacks of the black community, now we have everybody getting on us. We have everybody saying that we're the problem. They don't do that with any other group, bro. Damn. They don't even legitimize certain conspiracies or what they dub conspiracies. They don't even legitimize certain arguments with any type of discourse. So no, you can miss me with this. There are people you have discourse with, and those are people who are genuine. Those are people who may actually genuinely be misguided or somehow gotten incorrect information or somehow been in an echo chamber. I understand that happens. But with those people, upon them hearing an ounce of truth, they latch onto it and they go down the rabbit hole and they see the truth. The truth shall set them free. There are other people like this immigrant Angolan minstrel clown, all right, and his lineage, his mother and father and the rest of them that aren't. They aren't genuine. They are sent here to kill, steal, and destroy, all right? They are evil and they are wicked. Best believe there were black people who were hunting down black people when it came to slavery. Okay, we already talked about this ad nauseum in certain times when it came to a mandatory manumission. Right? They would get a reward. Good job getting our property back. Okay, now you get to sleep in the house for tonight.
I miss you like a hog miss fly.
That's what's happening right now, and I'm sorry. I'm not going to apologize for what I said because I 100% believe it. I don't think these people should exist. I don't think a racist should exist. I don't think a Nazi should exist. I don't believe that the anti-Semites should exist. I don't think any of these people should exist because they are here to destroy this country and to cause division. That's what they are here to do. And that is not what they want to sell me as America. That has nothing to do with it. That is hell on earth. That's what that is. Anyways, guys, that's a video. Let me know what you guys think. I don't care if you happen to agree with the minstrel show. You go ahead, because I'm sure there's probably a whole bunch of non-blacks out there. They're like, "Hey, he's really one of the good ones, okay, Lucas? He's one. I don't know what happened to you, but he's one of the good ones, and I see a bright future for that young man." I've heard it already. I've heard it. Y'all can take that and shove it up. All right. Anyways. We need to have a new generation of black people who don't allow this foolishness, so that other people that think that they can sponsor them or hire them, they get recourse as well. It's as simple as that. If you happen to disagree, you know where to find me Thursday through Saturday, Disagreement Day. You can call in, we duke it out. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to like, share, comment. Let me know what you guys think, and subscribe. And that fun stuff. Till next time, guys, be amazing.
Wake up, nigga.
Oh, wow. Well, my comment is really simple. One less who is less one of a headache that you need to deal with. And I just love this guy, Amazing Lucas, because he just point blank with it. And the idea is that we need to speak out more. We need to let people know that we're not playing. We're not going to be tap dancing. We're not going to be cooning and trying to sing hand in hand with the demons that we call black, that we call white. There is no kumbaya with these motherfuckers. Because they know who we are. They know who we are. And who we are the real Jews. Who we are the real human beings on the planet. Who we are the real creators and descendants of every civilization on the planet. They can't say that. They know that the only thing that their ancestors up to this very moment have only brought to the table of humanity death, destruction, disease, and despair. And you can add another 5, you can add another 1D, depravity. Death, destruction, disease, despair, and depravity. These are the 5 Ds they brought to the table. Now, what I found amazing is the fact, and the simple fact, that white folks ain't shit. The world just let them do what they want to do and just call it an aberration or some a disease of the mind in the moment. But these people are how they are. This next video is based on the Attorney General out of Nevada, named, I can't even pronounce it, but Segal, something like that, Chata. And she's a wannabe Jew that got this white Jew off out of trouble because he was in on meeting this 15-year-old girl. Thank God it was a setup. What's that famous guy who would set up people in the home and have kids come over or look like kids coming over and all these people come in and he would be videoing them? It's one of those traps. And so this guy is a high up. He was working with the FBI, Mossad, or whatever the case may be. But in this video, you're gonna hear it and it's gonna be explained. Hold on. Make sure that I got this right? So yeah, in the video you're gonna hear it, and it's just absolutely disgusting as to how much fucking shit they get away with. But I'm here to tell you, and this is my estimation, my prediction, that God ain't too fond of pretty, and sure the fuck ain't for the bullshit. And justice is here in the form of one Africa, one continent, one voice, one nation. And to be honest with you, the African Union is now the new UN. So let me go forward and hear this.
Goodness. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we wait for the release of the Epstein files, the Trump administration has been hot on the trails of targeting people who do bad things to minors. I guess that's the best YouTube-friendly way to describe it. And they had a sting going on in Nevada. Now, the sting was successful, thank God. They caught a lot of people in the sting. The problem is they caught the wrong people in the sting. And what I mean by that is that one of the people who was caught in the sting, his name was Tom Alexandrovich or something like that, I believe is his name. And I know many of you are like, so what? Who is that person? Well, the reason why this was one of the wrong people to catch in this sting was that this individual was an Israeli citizen. And mind you, just so we're clear, this person was trying to link up to do bad things with a 15-year-old. That's just so we're clear. This individual, Israeli citizen. But it gets worse because this Israeli citizen is not just any Israeli citizen. This individual works for cybersecurity for Israel, one of the head individuals. So now we have a problem. Now there are two sides to the story because what has happened is that he has since posted bail, $10,000. Boom, flown back into Israel. That's what's happened. He was arrested, charged okay, right? And he was released. Now, there's another story where it was saying that, hey, the Trump administration intervened. Now, this is by Sean King. Sean King says he spoke with the police directly. And directly, they told him, and it was shocking to us because we had worked so hard to get these people, and we got a call by the Trump administration saying, hey, we got to expedite this person out of here, okay? Now, I don't know which one you want to believe. I'm given as far as that we don't have the Epstein files thus far and that they're constantly trying to squash that, I'm more inclined to believe Sean King. That's why I'm more inclined to believe. Just so we're clear. Now, the district attorney of Nevada has come out and said, hey, I had nothing to do with this. This is more of a state thing. It wasn't a federal issue. So we're going to leave it to them. I'm not connecting dots that don't need to be connected. But it was pointed out that the district attorney was appointed by Trump, and that this individual is Jewish. Okay, they are Israeli themselves. Not saying that she had any type of intervening with this scenario and is working on behalf of Netanyahu. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. I just want to make sure that we put that out there. Now, in cases like this, they can absolutely make sure that he doesn't fly off, right? Prosecutors can intervene and be like, yo, we want to have an ankle monitor on him. We want to, no bail, right? They can absolutely do that. And we've seen them do that in other cases, okay? In lesser cases than this, mind you. So I find it very interesting that this individual is an Israeli citizen, can fly over here to the U.S., do crimes, and then fly back to Israel. Come on now, dog. Off of, I guess, the promise that he's going to come back for his court date when allegedly it was Israel that intervened to get him out of here to begin with. You make it make sense, all right? You make it make sense. Now, I find this absolutely hysterical, given that right now we are arresting husbands, we're arresting fathers, we're arresting kids to yeet them, all right, back to Mexico, Venezuela, Guatemala, places that they're not even from. So you're going to have to riddle me this back, man. They were telling me that, hey, we were going to get these criminal aliens out of here. Okay, got you. They did the opposite. And while they were talking about, well, we want to make sure that we get rid of all these, Bill Clintons who are messing with kids and stuff like that, all of these sick people, we got to get them out of here. They go and let an Israeli citizen who's the head of cybersecurity for Israel fly back to Israel after trying to harm a 15-year-old American citizen. Come on, man. Does that make sense to you? Can someone make sense? I can't make any sense of this, all right? I can't make a lick of sense because it doesn't make any sense. This is absolute nonsense. That's what this is, all right? You show me a black person who's gotten that type of leniency. And we're talking about a heinous crime. This is probably one of the most heinous crimes you can commit, bruh. I would put this above homicide because this person that you are trying to harm gets to live. They have to live with this trauma that you forced upon them. That's what's happening. That you are taking advantage of a minor. That is the most heinous thing you can do, and yet we're just letting people, just fly back to Israel. That's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And I know I'm very well aware of of what people allege of what's going on in Israel and how it's a safe haven for certain individuals like this. And let me just say, if you don't want that to be the case, if you want to say, well, Lucas, that's a myth and that's anti-Semitism, I will say that this really isn't a good look for you, Pimpin'. All right? I'm just letting you know this isn't a good look. And this isn't a good look for the Trump administration because it goes to show who they are allied with. They care more about Israel than they do our own citizens, fam. Our own youth. Like our own minors, bruh. Think about that. How do you care more for them than you do for us? But I guess that's not beyond the pale because all their policies have shown that to be the case. Their executive orders, a violation of our freedom of speech. When it comes to their attack on Harvard, a litany of things. When it comes to their funding of Netanyahu currently, right now, after you had Israel, people who were defending Israel said that after review, they doing a genocide. Has that stopped them? Has that stopped us from funding them? So I just want people to understand where where this administration is for. This administration is not about making America great again. This is about making Israel great again. Just to be honest, and I'm not saying that any type of disrespect to Jewish people, love the Jewish people. I'm just saying that as a disrespect to this presidency and a disrespect to Netanyahu. That's really what this is. A disrespect is. This is a disrespect to humanity, bro. This is an offense to American citizens. That we are on the bottom of the totem pole in America? Make it make sense. Anyways, guys, that's a video. Let me know what you guys think, whether or not you believe Lucas is just one person, okay? This is one person. He's going to fly to Israel, and he's going to come back. He's probably really repentant for what he did. It was probably all just a big misunderstanding, okay? That's why they let him go. Or if you can't believe, I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what to tell you, because as far as my policy is, we catch you trying to meet up with a minor and do some funny stuff, off, not even off to jail, bro. Off to the moon, fam. No, we're not going to send you to the moon. We're going to send you to the sun. You get a one-way ticket to the sun. That's how I feel about that. So that's just me. Nevertheless, if you happen to disagree, you know where to find me. Thursday through Saturday, Disagreement Day. Number on screen. You call in, we duke it out. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And that fun stuff. Till next time, guys, be amazing.
Wow. At what fucking point do our laws in America catch up to where it's supposed to be? Doesn't matter who you are, how powerful you are, how rich you are, how well connected you are. You fucking around, especially with kids, off with your fucking head. It's just that simple. And white folks, white boys, white girls have been getting away with fucking murder, literally and figuratively. A slap on the fucking hand. There's a white woman entering a police station, shooting the gun through the bulletproof glass. Now, if that was a black woman, she'd be killed instantly. But no, she white now. No, she gets all the props, and the police come out and they handle her gently. They didn't come out with guns blazing. But I swear to God, if I were the police there and I seen that shit, that bitch would be dead. But it's always something wrong. There's always something hidden. There's always something in the mix of all of that, as if white folks don't commit no crime. They're the biggest fucking criminals on the goddamn planet. They're the biggest fucking killers on the planet. You don't have to think twice about it. Go back to 2020 with the vaccine. 150 million people have died and are still dying. Not alone the 100 million who have been vaccine injured and will die. So don't miss me with the bullshit. This is too easy to see, and it seems to be in their minds and in their hearts and in their soul and in the law that they create for them. It's real easy to ignore. Oh, it's just an aberration. Man, fuck the aberration. You feel me? So that were the two videos that I really wanted to crack down on and to allow you guys to see. So we're gonna move on to the real deal Holyfield and what this means as far as Africa goes. So we're gonna start out with this one. EU accused of funding separatist movement in Africa. Shadow Unit Zulu dropped evidence. Now, Shadow Unit Zulu is like the Mossad, like the CIA, is like the M16, if I'm pronouncing that correct, out of England, similar to the FBI and all of that. The Shadow Unit Zulu guy is 1,000 times more powerful than all of those 3 or 4 agencies that I mentioned. They're not playing. And AU Supreme Court has a supreme law now, which means that they must follow this. And here we go. Be right back.
EU's funding separatist movements in Africa. Shadow Unit Zulu drops evidence by Takunda Mapika. Supreme Africa Breaking News. Suvan Huvad Show. Part 1. Leaked report from the shadows. We've just received classified intel from the deep belly of Africa's most secretive unit, Shadow Unit Zulu. After 6 months of silent investigation, silent infiltration, and silent surveillance, Shadow Unit Zulu has allegedly uncovered something so shocking, so dangerous, and so deep, it could rewrite Africa's relationship with Europe. According to Insider Protocol Black, a series of encrypted communications, crypto transfers, and digital fingerprints have been intercepted and linked to what the AU is now calling foreign-sponsored destabilization operations. The report? Unofficial. The accusations? Nuclear. The consequences? Unknown, but already in motion. Part 2. The accusation. European hands in African fire. According to Savan's confidential sources, Shadow Unit Zulu has traced several financial trails from EU-based NGOs and political organizations to suspected separatist factions operating in Biafra, Nigeria, Casamance, Senegal, Cabo Delgado, Mozambique, Katanga, DRC. Now, before we go further, let's be clear. This is not about all of Europe. The report doesn't accuse the European Union officially. It accuses powerful players based inside Europe using NGO cover to allegedly fund rebel groups across Africa. These so-called rebels were not just resisting local governments. They were opposing the very vision of the One Africa government, AfroGold and Afronet.
They don't realize one pair can do everything. If you're still juggling multiple glasses, see this.
In short, they were against Africa uniting. Part 3. What Shadow Unit Zulu found. The evidence dropped includes crypto wallet transactions totaling over $27 million traced from NGO-linked IPs in Brussels to Eastern Congo and northern Mozambique, leaked Zoom recordings from meetings between alleged NGO consultants and rebel-linked youth leaders, a forged development grant invoice claiming to fund community literacy programs, actually covering encrypted satellite phones and logistics drones, satellite imagery of unmarked cargo deliveries to militia-controlled regions, intercepted audio files of private calls between Western agents and African operatives saying things like, AfroGold will crash if the East breaks away. This isn't Hollywood. This is real intelligence. And according to the insiders we've spoken to, the AU has now quietly started rounding up some of the local collaborators. Part 4. The pattern is familiar. You see, this wouldn't be the first time. Throughout Africa's history, every time Africa begins to rise with one voice, someone funds chaos. When Congo found unity under Lumumba, he was eliminated. When Gaddafi pushed the African currency, he was eliminated. When Sankara spoke truth, he was eliminated. Now with AfroGold rolling out, Afronet gaining steam, and the One Africa government preparing to launch fully in February 2026, it appears some powers would rather see Africa divided. But this time, Africa has its own watchdogs. Part 5. Why Europe would risk this. According to Insider Chairman Shadow, there's a quiet panic inside EU policy circles. The European economy is facing rising fuel prices after Africa cut preferential energy deals, increased tariffs on African minerals under new AfroGold trade policies, loss of influence as African states reject Western NGOs and push independent development frameworks. To make matters worse for Europe, the African Union has blocked 6 NATO aircraft from landing in SADC zones. China and Russia are backing Africa's gold-backed economy. Africa's youth are rejecting foreign control in a digital revolution of Pan-African pride. So what does Europe do? Open quote. They allegedly sponsor minor breakaway movements, cause instability, and then offer peace talks with conditional economic terms. Close quote. Sound familiar? Part 6. Who is being targeted? Shadow Unit Zulu's report doesn't stop at funding. It lists operational zones, rebel leaders, and most shockingly, African politicians allegedly being used as inside pawns. Names have not been made public, but the list reportedly includes a former West African prime minister now living in Europe, 2 current regional governors suspected of withholding anti-terror reports, an oil tycoon from Central Africa known for EU lobbying. According to the leak, some of these figures are being placed under secret One Africa Army surveillance. General Umoja, former AU peacekeeping commander, was quoted as saying, open quote, "This is a security war disguised as aid, and those who take their coins are betraying a billion dreams." Chat Part 7, African Unity Under Fire. This revelation comes just weeks after Africa demanded $777 trillion in reparations from former colonizers, a move that sent shockwaves across European capitals. The European Union has not responded officially, but behind the scenes there's been tension. Secret flights banned by Africa, EU ambassadors summoned and questioned, high-level meetings between Trump and EU chairperson, allegedly involving tariff disputes tied to Africa's rising power. Now, to top it off, we get this. Open quote, accusations that the EU, or powerful players within it, are funding proxy wars in the hopes of dividing Africa before its official unification. Close quote. If true, this would mark a new level of neocolonial aggression, more sophisticated, more hidden, but no less dangerous. Part 8. AU's response. Investigation begins. Sources confirm that the AU Intelligence Oversight Board has now launched an internal investigation. A full list of foreign NGOs operating in separatist zones is being audited. Several embassies have been warned. Shadow Unit Zulu is reportedly sharing redacted versions of their evidence with the AU Supreme Law Court. This could lead to mass expulsion of certain NGOs, arrests of African political collaborators, asset seizures under Afrogold economic protection laws, sanctions on foreign funders found guilty. Chairman Shadow says this will be a legal war, not...
Hold on.
not just a military one. Part 9. Reactions from across Africa. From Dakar to Durban, reactions are pouring in. Mama Pan Africa, AU diplomat and mother of 2, said, "Our heroes are dying silently. Meanwhile, some of us dance for foreign coins. But no more. We see what they do in the dark." Economist of Addis added, "If we don't secure our unity now, they will chip at it. One region, one border, one leader at a time." In Lagos, youth groups held a candlelight vigil for victims of separatist clashes allegedly funded through foreign NGOs. And across African social platforms, yes, even the beta version of Afronet Chat, the hashtag is trending. Open quote, expose the funders, close quote. Part 10. This is why we must stand strong. Let's pause. This is not about hate. This is not anti-European. This is about truth, sovereignty, and dignity. Africa is not a playground for games of the West. We are no longer pawns in somebody else's chessboard. We are the board. We are the players. We are the future. And if you still doubt what's happening, ask yourself this. Why would someone fund a rebel group just as Africa is launching its first gold-backed currency? Just as Africa is rolling out its own internet infrastructure? Just as Africa is about to become a single economic and military bloc? Because power doesn't like losing power. And now we're watching them lose it. Stay united. We will continue investigating. We will continue exposing. And most importantly, we will continue dreaming, planning, and building the Africa of our grandchildren's dreams. This is not just news. This is Sabine, Supreme Africa Breaking News, where we tell the truth before they bury it. Let us know where you're watching from. Like, comment, subscribe, and tell the world, Tisu Vanhu Bacho.
Yeah, let me throw a little bit of light on that. Jamaica, the Caribbean island, Aruba, excuse the noise, Dinamarca, Cuba, Jamaica, the Bahamas, and several others are now joining in on being a part of the new United States of Africa, along with Fiji and Samoa and you name it. But there is a solid connection, and we're just tired of white folk bullshit. They're not white, they're not Anglo-Saxon, they're not European, they're nothing like that. They just bleeped out nigger. Worst fucking niggas on the planet. We're tired. We want our history back, we want our culture back, we want our everything back. And we're not asking. We're taking the motherfucker. Europe just agreed to pay $3 trillion USD dollars for reparations. And that's not just that's just the start. There's a $777 trillion reparation bill that's going to be coming in. And we're going to take the motherfucker. We ain't asking. So get that motherfucking shit out your mind. That, if we know we're not asking. We're taking the motherfucker. If you want to deal with 1.5 billion people on the planet and around the globe, you're talking about another 7 billion? Because there's only about pink people, pale skins on the planet is about 300,000. You're talking about 7.7 billion people of color. What the fuck do we need them for? They don't have anything. Their paper currency is like toilet paper. You can use it to wipe your ass. Point blank. And so as these Afro-American countries outside of the continent are now being enrolled into and uniting with the continent, it's over, guys. This really is fucking over. And white folks know that. And this is the reason why they're trying to infiltrate with some French motherfucker, white boy, who was involved in the Mali coup. And all the motherfuckers were caught. Now, if I were, Traore, or the leader of Mali or Ghana or whatever the case may be, I would kill him. There's no talking. They all in on trying to kill the future, trying to kill the idea of United States of Africa. That's treason. And with treason, the law states you must die. Period. I don't give a fuck how they die, they gotta die. Because our freedom of our future and our children's future in 50, 100, 200, 2,000 years from now is all based on this moment, the now moment. And if we don't get these motherfucking pale skin, tomahawk, dumb motherfuckers under control and under our foot, one foot on their neck and the other foot in their fucking ass and stay there, we will be dishonoring our ancestors. There's no more. There's not white people. No, there's no white people that are good. That's just a ploy. That's all it is. All these rat motherfuckers are no good. So don't go into that. Don't buy into that. Don't believe that bullshit. There's no kumbaya with these motherfuckers. Our ancestors didn't like them. The word slave comes from the word Slavic Indo-European. They were and still are the slaves of the world. So let me go on because I have quite a bit I want to cover. So now Donald Trump, based on this video, allegedly commented on one Africa government after attacks on Iran. Let's get into it.
Breaking. Donald Trump allegedly comments on One Africa government. You see what we did to Iran. By Takunda Mabika, Supreme Africa Breaking News, ABN. Tisu Vanhu Vacho. If we don't speak on this, who will? What just happened? While the world is still reeling from the United States' bold military strikes on Iran, a surprising new headline is starting to circulate in diplomatic back channels. And yes, it involves Donald J. Trump and the One Africa government. But before we dive into the story, let me be clear with you. This one is not directly from Chairman Shadow, our top AU insider. It comes from a friend of Chairman Shadow who is close to a high-level US briefing and passed the details on. So take that as you will. But as always, we bring you the heat that others fear to touch. According to this trusted source, a tense conversation took place inside Trump's camp just before he publicly addressed the Iran situation. One of the advisors in the room, concerned about international optics, reportedly said, "Sir, you see what we just did to Iran. What if people, especially those aware of the One Africa government movement, think this meant to intimidate Africa too?" Trump's response?
Checa esta increíble tableta que conseguí en Temu. Es completamente gratis para nuevos usuarios de Temu y viene con todos los accesorios que necesitas para empezar.
Calm. Unbothered. Reportedly, he replied, "What happens in Africa? Their politics, their government choices, it's not our business. If there was a civil war or genocide, we'd care. But if they're trying to form a government for the good of their people, that's their right." Then he added with a smirk, "Just like when I was told there was genocide in South Africa, I got concerned. I even tweeted about it. Turns out Elon Musk exaggerated it. Elon lied to me." The room reportedly laughed awkwardly, but the advisor pushed again, this time asking about the economic consequences. "But sir, what if a strong African government affects our economic interests?" To which Trump responded, "Only companies doing corrupt deals with weak African presidents will be affected. Good businesses will thrive. We do business with China, and they're powerful. We do business with Europe. Even here in America, foreign companies make billions. A stronger Africa might actually make it easier to invest. Instead of dealing with 55 different governments, you deal with one. Less red tape. So no, we're not trying to scare Africa. If they're serious about unity, I say good for them." And just like that, the alleged conversation ended. But the implications? Massive. So when an advisor in Trump's inner circle raised the One Africa topic, it shows how serious and how real this movement has become. Trump's alleged comment gives us a surprising insight. The US isn't necessarily against a united Africa, as long as it doesn't disrupt international business. Why this comment matters? Let's break this down. 1. Trump dismissed the idea that the US was trying to scare Africa by bombing Iran. 2. He said Africa's internal politics isn't America's business unless human rights are violated. 3. He blamed Elon Musk for misleading him about so-called genocide in South Africa. 4. He welcomed the idea of a united Africa from a business angle. 5. He said corrupt companies might struggle, but honest businesses will benefit. This is a far cry from the usual foreign policy fear-mongering we've seen in the past. Whether or not you like Trump, his logic was consistent. A strong Africa doesn't hurt us. It simplifies trade. But let's not get it twisted. Not everyone in the US feels the same way. How the world is reacting. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, all sovereign regions must be allowed to develop without threat or interference. Chinese Foreign Ministry, Africa's path is its own. China supports an African-led unity model. European Union Commission, the development of One Africa must be inclusive, peaceful, and democratic. ECHO official comment, Africa isn't Iran, and we are not puppets. The future belongs to us. African Citizens Online, One Africa Rising. Trump said what? Not Iran, Africa united. What the One Africa government is building. Let's remind ourselves what the One Africa government actually includes. One president of Africa, rotational leadership until 2036 elections. Stop 55 states with governors instead of presidents. One currency backed by mineral reserves and digital security. One Africa army made up of integrated national forces. one economic market for all African products and services, one biometric ID system for travel, work, and voting. So yes, this is real, this is big, and the world's biggest power just admitted that. From opposition to opportunity. If this report is accurate, Trump has shifted the US tone from opposition to opportunity. That changes the game. If the United States sees a benefit in one Africa, then even more reason for Africa to take itself seriously. But let's be clear, Trump didn't say this on stage. He didn't tweet it. It came in a closed-door conversation, the kind that reveals what they're really thinking. And for us, that matters more than the speeches. The lesson: never underestimate Africa. For decades, African unity was treated as a joke. They said we couldn't cooperate. They said coups would stop us. They said leaders were too corrupt. But today, we have a constitution in motion. We have the technology to unite ID systems. We have soldiers training under one flag. We have youth on TikTok and Twitter calling for unity. And now we have Donald Trump allegedly saying we are no threat. That's a badge of honor. Chairman Shadow comments. When we reached out to our trusted insider, he kept it brief. This tells you everything you need to know. They fear only one thing: an Africa that is honest and organized. Unity doesn't threaten peace. It threatens manipulation. That's the word. What Africa must do next: 1. Finalize the Constitution. No delays. No confusion. 2. Inform the public. Citizens must know what's changing and why. 3. Build the One Africa headquarters with our own resources. No foreign strings. 4. Tighten cybersecurity. External sabotage will come. Be ready. 5. Show the world unity with confidence, not apology. Final word. Donald Trump might not always speak with diplomacy, but sometimes the rawest voices tell the truth. And if what we heard is true, then the United States, under Trump, isn't trying to stop one Africa. It's just watching. So, Africa, this is your window. This is your time. The world is no longer laughing. They're listening. Now, let's give them something powerful to hear. We are not Iran. We are not divided. We are one Africa. Tisu Banhubacho, Supreme Africa Breaking News.
Well, I love it. It is an idea whose time I come. That's all. Cannot stop an idea, a people, a movement that has matured and is ready. Time. And that time is now. And forever and ever. Amen. Our future is so fucking bright and hot that it cannot be denied. And like I said, Africa as one voice went to the UN in New York, surrounded it, and made it clear that their voice must be heard or we up out this motherfucker and we don't give a shit about what you do. In other words, as I explained in previous videos, that the AU, the African Union, the United States of Africa, is the new union, the new United Nations. Because the old United Nations, they didn't give a fuck about justice. But you know what? Justice is here. And the black man will set afire the world where injustice has been the rule of the day. Now you heard me say, I'm sorry, not me, but you heard Amazing Lucas say, we need to fight fire with fire. No. fight fire with water and let the water get so deep, so wide, and so tall it drowned all the mother. We had done all the sin. We had done all the sinning, and all the ones that are just will be on that ark. When that ark disembarks, it's over. There will be no or little to none of these motherfucking scavengers left. Now we're going to keep going, and I want you guys to understand what all of these videos that I'm hoping you are connecting is saying. That is, white folks are done. There's no more white folks doing a motherfucking thing. It is the black man's voice from here on out that's getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and our motherfucking hands are on the neck of the animals, and we're just gonna choke the living shit out of them, and keep choking and keep choking and keep our neck on their asses and on their children's asses and their children's asses. Because if we don't, these people are going to come back and be in control again, and the world will go from sugar to shit. Because all white folks know how to do is disrupt good shit and turn it into bad shit. Justice into injustice, good, bad, you name it. It's always the opposite. This is what they do. This is the true nature. Now in this video, you're gonna hear Latin America declare support for one African government, call for Afro-Gold Alliance around the globe. This is taking the concept of unity to a whole nother level. That's making our ancestors so fucking proud that Traore literally found a mountain worth of gold. There are so many things that have not yet been discovered in Africa that's going to make it the definition of wealth. I'll be right back.
Shock. Latin America declares support for One Africa government. Calls for Afro-Gold Alliance. By Takunda Mabika. Supreme Africa breaking news. Tisu Vanhuvacho. This is not gossip. This is not trending news. This is a direct intelligence update. A quiet alliance is forming. And today, the Western world just got a brand new problem. Part 1. They said it could never happen. Just a few months ago, African diplomats sat quietly in Addis Ababa and whispered the impossible, that Afro-Gold could be more than just a currency, that it could be a weapon of economic freedom, a new standard, a new story. Most global analysts laughed. They said Africa was too disorganized, too corrupt, too poor to ever pull something like this off. But now, Africa is no longer alone. Ha! Part 2. The old world wakes up to a new threat. The continent has been rising fast, faster than expected. Afro-Gold is being tested by banks across West Africa. Central banks are restructuring under a shared monetary policy team. The One Africa Parliament is already enforcing trade laws that prioritize Afro-Gold transactions. And the African Union has frozen certain foreign military accounts, including IMF-linked assets. But here's the shocker. Latin America just declared full support for the One Africa government and the Afro-Gold mission. That's right. Behind closed doors, several Latin American countries have allegedly signed an initial memorandum to begin integrating with Afro-Gold as a reserve currency. The leaked meeting, which took place in Uruguay, was not on any public agenda. Part 3. Chairman Shadow leaks the summit details. According to our deep insider, Chairman Shadow, a senior AU official present on encrypted coordination channels, the summit included delegates from Brazil, Venezuela, Bolivia, and even small island states like St. Lucia and Dominica. The agenda? To explore strategic currency integration, joint natural resource trade deals, and Afro-Gold basket inclusion. Chairman Shadow's report claims the Latin bloc made one thing very clear. Africa's courage is contagious. They too want out of the dollar trap. They too want sovereignty over their resources. They too are tired of begging Western corporations for a future they already own. Part 4. Latin America's colonial scars run deep. The pain is the same. Like Africa, Latin America was colonized, exploited for sugar, gold, slaves, and rubber. Like Africa, they lost their culture, their names, their languages. And like Africa, they were told to keep borrowing from the IMF while selling oil and minerals for next to nothing. But now, AfroGold offers a new option, a peer-to-peer currency, free from Western manipulation, backed by real resources, rooted in dignity. Latin American economists are reportedly calling it the most powerful anti-colonial currency movement since the creation of BRICS. Part 5. Protocol Black confirms secret data transfers. Enter Protocol Black, the AU technician who handles digital surveillance and encrypted document transmission. He confirms that during the Uruguay meeting, an AfroGold technical file was shared via a secure channel with Brazil's central banking authority. This document included the draft terms for AfroGold reserve basket participation, including gold deposit guidelines, electronic ledger access, and non-disclosure clauses related to AU military spending. Protocol Black says this is not speculation. It is a new world being built in plain sight, quietly, boldly, globally. Part 6. General Umoja warns of retaliation. Of course, the West is not sleeping. General Umoja, the retired AU military strategist and now advisor to the AfroGold Security Board, warned SABN that multiple NATO-linked operations have already ramped up intelligence surveillance on both African and Latin American political figures. Why? Because the moment these two continents join forces economically, a new axis of power emerges. And that's not all. General Umoja claims the CIA has issued fresh alerts inside its Latin American desks, describing AfroGold as a possible, quote, destabilizing threat to Western financial security. Destabilizing to who? To the thieves who've been printing fake value while we dig real gold? Part 7. The Economist of Addis reveals trade plan. According to the Economist of Addis, a lead policy advisor in the AfroGold Council, trade talks have already begun for a pilot exchange between Venezuela and Ghana. The idea? Africa supplies processed cocoa, rare earth minerals, and fertilizer. Venezuela offers oil and gas, all settled in AfroGold-backed smart contracts. But here's the genius. None of these transactions would use SWIFT. None would touch dollars. None could be frozen. This is how you fight colonial power. With systems, not slogans. Part 8. Behind closed doors, the US and EU panic. Now let's take it global. Our Brussels insider, codenamed Silent Mirror, confirms that the EU is under massive internal pressure. After already pledging a shocking $3 trillion in reparations to Africa in a desperate move to keep trade flowing, now they face a new challenge. A Southern Hemisphere revolt. Silent Mirror says that during a recent NATO-EU closed-door economic session, a leaked memo described the AfroGold Latin America possibility as a worst-case scenario. Not because of trade, but because of influence. If Africa can unite a second continent around its financial system, the Western order begins to collapse, quietly and permanently. Part 9. The Power of Symbols. The AfroGold logo is now more than a currency. It's a symbol of dignity, of justice, of retaliation, not through violence, but through value. And Latin America is tired of being polite while its people starve and its mines are owned by foreign billionaires. Sources inside Cuba claim murals are already being painted in Havana, celebrating the AfroGold Phoenix. The same in Bolivia, the same in Rio's favelas. AfroGold is not a currency anymore. It's a cultural revolution. Part 10. New World, New Alliance. So what happens now? Chairman Shadow says we are entering what diplomats call the spiral phase. This is the stage when one alliance leads to another, then another, and another, until the world quietly pivots away from the old rules. Already, ASEAN officials are reportedly watching closely. The Caribbean Community, CARICOM, has scheduled a closed-session summit on AfroGold later this month. And there are whispers that the AU might invite Latin American observers to the next AfroGold Treasury meeting in Nairobi. It's no longer one Africa rising, it's one Africa leading. Part 11. The real reason the West is worried. It's not about the gold. It's not about the sanctions. It's about the story. For centuries, the story has been simple. Africa and Latin America are poor, weak, chaotic, always needing help. But now, these same regions are building systems, designing currencies, training armies, flying satellites, hosting summits, making billion-dollar decisions without the West in the room. And the West cannot rewrite that story anymore, because now it's in gold. Part 12, we close with love. To every channel member watching this, you are part of this. While the world tries to silence Africa, you keep this voice alive. You share these reports. You ask questions. You think for yourself. And you prove that Africa is not alone. Latin America just joined the resistance. And more are coming. To all our engineers, traders, policy experts, military strategists, Afro-gold miners, bank designers, youth leaders, and dreamers, this is the season. They cannot stop what they cannot understand. And they will never understand how Africa and Latin America, two continents they buried, found each other and started building heaven. We're not done. We've only just begun. Reported by Takunda Mabika, Supreme Africa Breaking News. Tisu Vanhu Bacho. If we don't tell this story, who will?
Now you heard the guy, he said, we want peace, and that is true. I'm all for that. But when it's time to rumble, we give it to them, motherfucker. We're not here to play. We're talking about economic domination that lead to political theater that will allow us to write laws, policies, and regulations that benefit us and fuck them. Because they're already fucked. Every second, every day, every week, every month, every year from this day on, France is accumulating debt at the amount of $6,000 per second. They broke. America, $37 trillion in debt. Not even counting this so-called XRP that's supposed to pay off the debt. From what I'm reading and what I've read and what I've heard, XRP is not backed by gold, although it can be on the ledger and make whatever moves it need to be made by transporting, supposedly gold or silver or platinum or whatever real world assets that need to be done. It's not backed by anything. This is what I'm seeing. This is what I've heard. So the only people who have gold back in their currencies are BRICS. With BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and then others coming in to BRICS. So now you can see what is happening with this in one video. The global impact is beyond your wildest fucking imagination, including Fiji, Palau, Samoa, all these Pacific islands who have a connection to our Mother Africa. They will be coming in and joining the unification of the United States of Africa. This is huge. And they are only dealing with, and we are only dealing with gold. It's over, guys. It's over. So let's move on. Here, NATO cargo plane intercepted in Africa carrying weapons for militia. Now, you got to realize there's a shadow unit in Zulu. They put to shame all three that I know of that are European based, American based, and Middle Eastern based. Most are CIA and M16 out of England, whatever they're called. These organizations like children playing cops and robbers. Shadow Unit Zulu is no joke. they done caught, as I showed in the previous video on Tuesday and all the other videos. And in this video, they're going to be covering 2 CIA agents, Mossad agents. They're not letting them go. They're under arrest, and they will be staying in Africa for a very long time. That's treason. Let's move forward.
Breaking: NATO cargo plane intercepted in Africa, carrying weapons for militias. By Takunda Mabika, Supreme Africa Breaking News. Tisu van Huvacho, the skies above Africa are no longer silent. They are watching. And this time, they struck. Part 1, recap. Africa warned NATO months ago. Let's start by reminding our loyal viewers. This is not random. This is not sudden. This is part of an ongoing continental storm. Weeks ago, SABN insiders revealed how the African Union was preparing an airspace lockdown against unapproved foreign military flights, particularly those linked to NATO. We told you about the secret Afrogold emergency decree, where AU military intelligence warned that external actors were trying to sabotage Africa's move toward a unified gold-backed economy. And guess what? The One Africa Parliament voted to ban all military cargo flights without explicit clearance from the new Continental Aviation Authority, a body formed under the One Africa Government Transition Plan. So what happens when you ignore that law? Simple. You get intercepted. Part 2, the interception. Over Central Africa. According to leaked documents obtained by SABN, a large NATO-affiliated cargo aircraft was intercepted last night by a One Africa defense squadron operating out of Central Africa. The plane was flying at low altitude, outside of any authorized civilian corridor, attempting to pass under radar near the border of the Democratic Republic of Congo and the Central African Republic. It was shadowed by 2 Black Hawk-like stealth drones from the One Africa Air Force, a new joint wing formed by the integration of SATC and ECOWAS military assets. Within 20 minutes, the aircraft was surrounded and force-landed at a classified airfield outside Bangui. What they found on board, according to SABN military insider General Umoja, was disturbing. Weapons. Dozens of crates of them. Mostly compact ground-to-air missiles, drone jammers, night vision combat gear, and strangely, non-African jungle camo uniforms, tagged with no country origin. And that's not all. 2 unmarked digital crates were discovered, allegedly containing electronic warfare equipment capable of targeting Afrinet infrastructure. That's the African-owned internet system we've been telling you about, the same one foreign agents have been trying to disrupt. Part 3. Who was it for? Here's where things get deeper. Initial military analysis, which has not been publicly released, but leaked to SABN, reveals that the cargo was not heading to any official African government. None of the 55 AU member states requested or approved this flight. Instead, documents recovered from the co-pilot's flight deck show vague coordinates matching known militia zones in eastern Congo and western Sudan. Let that sink in. A NATO plane, flying low and illegal, carrying high-grade military equipment, allegedly heading for non-state actors in conflict regions. SABN's diplomatic insider, Mama Pan Africa, broke it down like this. If this is what it looks like, then the West is playing a very dirty game. They're not just ignoring AU sovereignty, they may be actively arming the very chaos they later pretend to help fix. Part 4. Why now? So why is this happening now? Simple. Afrogold, Afrinet, One Africa Army. These 3 things have terrified certain foreign powers. Once Africa starts operating on its own gold-backed currency, once Africa controls its own digital networks, once Africa is protected by a unified military force, then it no longer needs outside control. But guess what? That means someone else loses. The European Union, still tied to outdated colonial mining contracts. NATO, whose bases in Africa are now being reviewed or expelled. Multinational tech firms, who now must pay tax in Afrogold and not USD. So how do you stop a rising Africa? Destabilize it. Quietly. Deny it later. Smile in public. Sabotage in secret. Part 5. Inside the cockpit. One pilot talk sound. Here's an SABN exclusive. One of the plane's captured crew members, believed to be a former Royal Air Force officer, reportedly broke down during interrogation. According to leaked interrogation transcripts, the pilot admitted they were told it was a routine supply mission. once midair, they were handed coordinates via satellite that didn't match the original flight plan. He grew suspicious when Nigerian air traffic control refused to acknowledge the flight's existence. The pilot said he realized they were not on a peacekeeping route. They were in the middle of something else. And he wasn't alone. 3 of the 6 crew members are allegedly contractors, meaning private military agents, not official NATO personnel. This isn't peacekeeping. This is shadow warfare. Part 6, all response. Deafening silence. So what has the African Union said publicly? Nothing. No press conference, no formal accusation, no video. Why? Because this is not a political story anymore. This is a military operation under emergency security protocols. Insiders say the One Africa Command is holding private crisis meetings with presidents of Sudan, Uganda, DRC, and South Africa to trace the intended recipients of the intercepted weapons. SABN has learned that President João Lourenço, who is chairing the transition into One Africa government, is expected to address the parliament behind closed doors on the matter, possibly authorizing the first ever One Africa Supreme Court investigation into NATO activity. Part 7. Where are the passengers now? The 6-member crew is being held in an undisclosed One Africa Army facility, according to General Umoja. They are being interrogated by Shadow Unit Zulu, Africa's covert elite tasked with handling international sabotage. SABN has been told that forensic teams are currently decoding satellite signals, checking transponders, and matching weapon serial numbers to known Western defense contractors. If a match is found, expect global diplomatic war. Already, whispers from the AU Foreign Affairs Committee suggest that France and the UK may be the origin points of some of the arms. But until verification is complete, no names have been confirmed. Part 8, World Reactions. So far, international media is completely silent. No BBC, no CNN, no Al Jazeera. Why? Because they don't want this story getting out. Instead, the West is allegedly preparing a diplomatic spin campaign, possibly framing the cargo plane as a rogue humanitarian supply that accidentally veered off course. But AU insiders aren't buying it. As Protocol Black, our anonymous source within AU meetings, put it, the plane didn't get lost, it got caught. Part 9. What happens next? This interception changes everything. Right now, the One Africa Parliament is debating full sanctions against all unapproved military flights, possibly even a total airspace lockdown on Europe-based airlines until explanations are provided. The Afro Gold Reserve Board is preparing to suspend all currency exchange with NATO-affiliated countries unless the matter is resolved. And the One Africa Army is reportedly conducting simultaneous drone flyovers of all foreign military bases on the continent as a warning. Africa is not playing anymore. Part 10. Sabin Final Word. Tisu Vanhu Vacho. This is not about anti-West propaganda. This is about facts. A foreign cargo plane carrying unapproved weapons was caught flying illegally over Africa. No African country requested it. No African institution approved it. And the plane was headed to militia zones. That's not aid. That's not peacekeeping. That's provocation. To every African watching this, this is why One Africa government matters. To every doubter, this is why we need Afronet. To every skeptic, this is why AfroGold must work. To every dreamer, this is why One Africa must rise. Because the games they play with our borders, the wars they fund behind our backs, the lies they spread through their media, it ends now. Africa is watching. Africa is rising. Africa is united. Tisu Vanhu Vacho. Sabien reporting.
Like I said, you cannot stop an idea whose time and people has come. It must manifest. And to be honest with you, it is manifesting at a light speed pace. Now, I said from Brother Muhammad, so I look within 3 to 5 years. Now look at it, it's less than that. Hell, in 3 to 5 years, Africa will be owning every motherfucking thing in the world. It'll be the #1 power. Political, economic, spiritual, and physical. And who can imagine the things, the wealth that has yet to be discovered? You're talking about buying, you're talking about in the 70s, I remember how America was talking about the Arabs and all of their wealth coming into America and buying up everything. You're talking about 1,000 billion times more. And I'm here to tell you, Africa and black folk as a whole are going to own Europe because they're broke. They need money. They have no resources. They have no gold back in its currency. The French franc is dead. The American dollar is dead. The German, whatever their currency is dead. Japan dead. I rest my case. So one African government labels Israel a hostile influence. See how this is going? Do you see how this is going? And I'm here to tell you, it's no joke. Africa is united. Africa will be the force of the world, economic, political, spiritual, and physical force to be dealt with. And you can't deal with it. What is it called? Shadow Unit Zulu. 1,000 times more powerful than Mossad, CIA, and M16 combined. It's unstoppable. And the reason why I say that is that people have learned how to fight from black folks. Hannibal of Carthage was a black guy. What's the name of the school where the military in America go to learn how to fight? They get in their ideas and all of that from black folks. In particular, Hannibal of Carthage. Let's keep it moving.
One Africa government labels Israel a hostile influence in Africa. What this means, by Takunda Mabika, Supreme Africa Breaking News. Tisu Vanhuvacho. Before we break this one down, fam, if you're watching from Lusaka, Kigali, Cairo, or the corner of your bed in Madokero, hit that like, slap that subscribe, and ring that bell like you're waking up a sleeping president. Because today's story, eesh, you might want to sit down for this one, the statement that shook the summit. An emergency classified report just landed on our desk, and it's not looking good for Israel. According to our top insider, Chairman Shadow, the One Africa government has officially classified Israel as a hostile influence on African soil. What does that mean? It means Israel is now viewed by the African Union's highest diplomatic and security organs as a threat to Africa's peace, unity, and sovereignty. And this is not just ordinary gossip in the corridors of Addis Ababa. The decision was quietly adopted during a late-night session of the Continental Intelligence Coordination Forum, CICF, a super-secret AU intelligence summit that makes the CIA look like a WhatsApp group. Part 2. What sparked it? According to leaked documents, 3 things triggered this bold declaration. Alleged espionage. Israeli tech firms operating across Africa have reportedly been gathering sensitive data from government and military systems. Security breaches. Several One Africa Army officials were alarmed after Israeli drones were spotted near AU bases in East and West Africa. Diplomatic manipulation. Israel allegedly tried to influence voting patterns during the Afrogold trade bloc elections in exchange for cybersecurity contracts. And the cherry on top? A leaked audio between an Israeli defense attaché and a European ambassador reportedly captured them mocking the One Africa government and calling it Africa's Fantasy League. Fantasy League? Ha! These guys are playing FIFA with the wrong continent. Part 3. The War of Intelligence begins. Our other informant, Protocol Black, confirmed that after these reports, the One Africa government immediately activated Shadow Unit Zulu to begin counter-surveillance operations. These guys are like the Wakandan version of 07, except real and with a stronger Wi-Fi signal. Israel, for its part, has denied everything. They say these are conspiracy theories inspired by anti-Semitic propaganda. But here's the twist. Even some pro-West African presidents are silent this time. Not a single public defense statement has been made on Israel's behalf. That tells you the game is changing. Part 4, Africa's growing independence and Israel's problem with it. Let's be honest, Africa isn't the same continent it was 10 years ago. Today we have our own currency, Afro Gold, our own army, our own parliament, and now a rising central bank. We're not waiting for handouts anymore. We're doing business in Afro Gold. We're trading with China, the Arab world, and Latin America. We're sending satellites to space, not letters to colonial gods. And what happens when you stop begging? The former masters panic. Israel, a longtime strategic partner to the West, has had major intelligence and defense deals in Africa. But those deals were based on a disunited continent. Now that Africa is speaking with one voice, some of those partners are shaking. Part 5, what hostile influence means.
Watch what eggs do to your brain. Take a look at these 2 brain scans.
Practically, when the One Africa government labels a country as a hostile influence, a series of silent moves begin. Intelligence agencies sever ties. Mossad no longer has AU-level access to counterterrorism intel. Economic restrictions. Israeli companies operating in defense, energy, and telecoms may be blacklisted. Cyber defense activations. African cyber units have begun scanning all Israeli-made software and hardware used in AU institutions. Military border protocols tightened. All One Africa Army checkpoints have received updated threat matrices that include Israeli-linked operatives. That's a fancy way of saying, if you're doing Israeli business in Africa, you better keep your passport and your excuses close. The AU Supreme Court debate. As we speak, the One Africa Supreme Court is reviewing petitions on whether Israel's diplomatic immunity in several African countries should be revoked. Yep, you heard that right. Israel could lose its diplomatic privileges in countries like Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, and even parts of North Africa. Our legal insider, Justice Code Black, says the legal team is considering invoking a continental sovereignty clause never used before. Basically, a diplomatic evict and freeze button. This would allow African governments to freeze assets, expel diplomats, and sever tech contracts overnight. Boom. Part 7, Israel's next move and Africa's warning. Israel is not going to just sit and watch. Already, they've requested an emergency AU diplomatic review. Their lobbyists in South Africa and Ethiopia are working overtime. But Africa is not blinking. One insider from the Afro Defense Council said, open quote, if Israel wants to act like a partner, they will be treated like one. If they want to play games, we have players too. Close quote. Africa is done being the playground. Part 8, what this means for the ordinary African. Let's break this down. More scrutiny on foreign contracts means more opportunities for African tech startups. Cleaner intelligence networks equals fewer coups, less Western manipulation. African-owned data systems equals better protection of citizens' rights. Rising continental pride equals stronger Pan-African identity. And most importantly, we're choosing ourselves first. It doesn't mean we hate others. It means we finally love ourselves enough to stop being played. Part 9, the bigger global picture. This move doesn't just affect Africa and Israel. It sends a warning across the globe. Every intelligence network from Langley to London is now paying attention. Because if Africa can say no to Israel, what's next? A full pivot from NATO? Afro Gold replacing dollar reserves? AU drones policing Africa's skies? Let's be clear, the world has underestimated Africa for so long, they forgot we were watching, learning, planning, and now, acting. Part 10, final message to our viewers. Look, this is not about religion. It's not about history. It's about respect. If you come to Africa to empower, we embrace you. If you come to exploit, we expose you. Today, it's Israel. Tomorrow, it could be anyone. But this much is clear. Africa is no longer a junior player. We are the continent of the future, and that future has already begun. So if you made it this far, my people, don't forget to smash that like button, share this with your cousin who always thinks Africa is soft, and subscribe so you don't miss the next Inside Scoop. This is Supreme Africa Breaking News with your boy Takunda Mavika, Tisu Vanhu Vacho, Tisu Tino Ziva. And together, we rise. See you in the next one. Peace.
right. Well, this is my prediction that now Africa has a more powerful position in the world. They are united under one voice, one vote, one nation, one currency, one everything. The hand of truth is going to be exposed. And I'm reading this in the other new video I'm looking at here. I'm going to wait until Saturday. So the hand of truth is going to be exposed, telling the truth about who the real Jews are. And we're going to get that reparations too. 99% of the Americans in America are Jews because of the fact that the Portuguese Jews, the Spanish Jews, and the Jews from the Middle East who took a part in the trans-Atlantic and the trans-Saharan desert slave trade were the ones who were brought to America. And so we're having a lot of discussions that are going on that will be fire to the world because no lie can live forever. And those who have been living this life of lies and deceit, white folks, are going to be looking awfully embarrassed to come and find out that they're not white, they're not European, they're not Anglo-Saxon, they're not Caucasian. They're just a bunch of worthless motherfucking pieces of shit. Living a life of wannabe white, Caucasian, or whatever else. They ain't shit. Turn your back on them. They don't mean a motherfucking thing. They're playing games. They're playing the Wizard of Oz. And so now we're at this point. One Africa Central Bank launches today. This is not a joke, you guys. This is very serious. And we're on a come up like a motherfucker. Let's go.
Developing. One Africa Central Bank launches today. Here's what they'll control. By Takuna Mabika, Supreme Africa Breaking News, SABN, Tisu Van Huvacho, and the game just changed. Part 1, Quiet Power Moves Behind the Curtain. Ladies and gentlemen, citizens of the continent, viewers of the revolution, listen carefully. As of this morning, confidential AU insider reports confirm the official launch, not the announcement, of the One Africa Central Bank, OACB. Let that sink in. Not an idea, not a proposal, not a debate. It's live, active, operating, funded, and already controlling things. And they didn't even hold a press conference. Why? Because in real power politics, the smartest moves are made in silence. According to SABN sources embedded within the African Monetary Integration Task Force, the One Africa Central Bank has been gradually deployed in disguise for over 8 months, hidden behind inter-country development funds, sovereign wealth vehicles, and pan-African investment pools.
Hi there, my dear friends. For those who haven't met me yet, I'm Ray Maor, and let me tell you, I've been on...
You thought that $3 billion development grant from Africa Solidarity Group in Ethiopia was just aid? You thought the emergency loan to Congo during the flood crisis came from regional assistance? You thought Ghana's Tech Innovation Fund was backed by a mix of philanthropists? Wrong. The fingerprints of the One Africa Central Bank are all over these transactions. This isn't speculation. This is how the game is played. Part 2, the power they'll control. Let's break it down. The One Africa Central Bank will become the most powerful financial institution on the continent. Think of it like this.
In the world.
If the Afrogold currency is the blood, the OACB is the heart pumping it across all 55 nations. So what exactly will it control? 1, currency standardization. They control the value, circulation, and printing of Afrogold. National currencies will still exist for now, but only as subordinate units under Afrogold's authority. 2, cross-border payments and settlements. All large financial transactions across Africa will flow through a central ledger maintained by OACB servers based in Addis Ababa, Nairobi, and Pretoria. The days of USD dominance in African trade are ending quietly, one transaction at a time. 3. Disaster and emergency response funding. In the Sudan peace process, Mali food aid, and Malawi cyclone relief, OACB quietly provided the funds under aliases. Future national emergencies will now depend on continental approval. Power shift. 4. Investment gatekeeping. Foreign direct investment will now pass through a new regulatory filter. OACB will determine who gets access to Africa's trillion-dollar opportunities. China, the US, the EU, everybody must now speak to one bank. 5. Debt restructuring and buyback programs. This one is massive. African countries drowning in debt? OACB is quietly negotiating bulk buybacks of sovereign bonds using gold reserves and Afro-gold stabilization assets. Translation: Africa is buying itself back, quietly. Part 3. Who runs this silent beast? Let's expose the architects. According to insiders known only as the Economist of Addis and Mama Pan-Africa, the OACB is run by a council of governors, one for each African region, under the direct oversight of, open quote, the Presidential Board of One Africa, chaired by AU President João Lourenço, close quote. Each regional governor represents not their country, but the economic bloc they're assigned to. West Africa, based in Accra, East Africa, based in Nairobi, Southern Africa, based in Pretoria, North Africa, based in Algiers, Central Africa, based in Kinshasa. These governors are not elected. They are appointed by the inner financial sanctum of the AU. And their background? None of them are politicians. They are bankers, economists, military-funded analysts, risk strategists. You don't see their faces on TV, and that's the point. At Part 4, examples of silent deployment already happening. Let's go to the proof. 1. Mozambique oil crisis bailout. In April 2025, Mozambique received a $2.6 billion bailout to rescue its energy sector. The source? African Sovereign Strategic Trust. That's just a shell name for the OACB Transition Fund. 2. Egypt's transportation overhaul. A high-speed rail project between Cairo and Khartoum was mysteriously underwritten by Pan-African Mobility Innovation Fund. Insiders now confirm it was a testing mechanism for OACB-backed infrastructure funding. 3. Zimbabwe's Agricultural Revival reports in May 2025 stated a $1.4 billion fund was made available for youth-led farming. It was reported as diaspora-backed. False. It came directly from the Southern Bloc division of the One Africa Central Bank. 4. Nigeria's digital Naira reconfiguration. Just 2 months ago, Nigeria stopped pursuing full e-Naira expansion. Why? Because it's merging technical frameworks with AfroGold for smoother interoperability under OACB watch. Part 5. So why the secrecy? Why hide this? Why operate in the shadows? Because currency is war, and the OACB is Africa's nuclear option against financial colonization. Make it public too early, and the entire Western economic surveillance system activates. Sanctions, investment downgrades, currency manipulation, media propaganda. So the AU took a page from America's CIA. Open quote, the best coups are quiet. By the time the world notices, it's already over. Part 6. Hidden powers, real implications. This isn't just a bank. This is a tool of control. Let's be honest. Whoever controls Africa's money controls what wars can be fought, what peace deals can be made, who gets electricity, who gets vaccinated, who builds the next highway, who gets a Netflix license. Power isn't about soldiers anymore. It's about servers. It's about transaction approvals. It's about who signs the check. And starting today, One Africa writes the check. Part 7. Global reaction already starting. Word is getting out. According to Chairman Shadow, several international reactions have already been registered. IMF has requested special access to observe OACB monetary decisions. Request denied. U.S. Treasury Department just sent a special envoy to meet with the East African governor. France's ambassador allegedly walked out of a closed AU economic meeting last week. China is attempting to co-sign OACB's gold reserve framework, still under debate. Everyone wants a piece of the action or to stop it. But guess what? It's already too late. Part 8, the dream. Why this matters for you. Let me bring it home, my African brothers and sisters. This isn't just about banks. This is about you. You will soon be able to trade across borders with no USD conversion headaches, send money from Nigeria to Namibia in 3 seconds, Get investment from AU-backed funds as a local entrepreneur. Save money in gold-backed AfroGold that doesn't lose value like paper. Live in a continent where finance equals freedom, not fear. You may not realize it yet, but the One Africa Central Bank is the bridge between colonial slavery and Pan-African prosperity. It's the invisible hand guiding the AfroGold future. And you, yes, you watching this, are part of the generation witnessing this historic shift. Final words. Today marks the true day one. Don't wait for a newspaper article or a BBC confirmation. This is how power shifts. Quietly, strategically, irreversibly. The One Africa Central Bank now exists, and if you listen closely, you'll hear it. Not with sound, but with silence. Tisu Vanhu Bacho. We are the ones we've been waiting for. SABN. Out.
It's over, guys. It's over. I don't know what to tell you. If you can't see it by now, you ain't gonna never see it. But there are just some of us who are not capable of seeing it because you've been blinded, you've been deafened, and you've been muted by the fact that our ancestors got our back. We just gotta turn around and listen to them and stop listening to these motherfucker funky ass pale skin. Period. Fuck them. So we're going at a good pace. I think we might be over in 3 hours. And this is the second, going into the second hour, so we've got another hour to go. So this one is One Africa's Internet is finally live. You can get it. The AfriNet. And let's see.
Breaking. The West is panicking. One Africa's internet is finally live. By Takunda Mabika, Supreme Africa Breaking News, Tisu Vanhu Bacho. You won't hear this on CNN, but it's already happening. Part 1. The digital breakaway they didn't see coming. According to high-level AU insiders and documents quietly circulating in diplomatic channels, Africa's long-awaited internet independence is no longer a dream. It's live. They call it AfriNet. But what's shocking the West isn't just that it exists. It's the scale, the coordination, and the timing. Open quote, they thought we were just building data centers, whispered Chairman Shadow, a senior AU tech policy insider. What they didn't know is we were building a digital wall, a new protocol, a new continent-wide system they can't control. Close quote. As of this month, the African Union officially switched all internal communications, political, military, financial, to AfriNet channels. And quietly, across tech summits and closed-room discussions, a chilling phrase keeps repeating among Western strategists. Open quote, we've lost Africa's internet. Close quote. Part 2. What is AfriNet? A leaked blueprint. AfriNet is more than just African Wi-Fi. It's a continent-wide sovereign internet ecosystem made up of Africa-owned fiber optic and satellite networks, local data centers and cloud storage, homegrown platforms and apps, independent internet governance frameworks, local ISPs controlling last-mile infrastructure, AU-enforced data protection laws, and soon, AfriSearch and AfriTube. Yes, local alternatives to Google and YouTube. Open quote. AfriNet is the software, the pipes, the laws, all ours, said Protocol Black, an AU systems engineer. It's not just access to the internet, it's control of the entire ecosystem. Close quote. Part 3. Why the West is panicking. You see, bro, for decades the West held Africa's digital future hostage. Africa's data was stored in Europe and the US. Africa's internet traffic was routed through foreign servers. Social media moderation was handled from California. Tech profits from African users flowed straight into Silicon Valley. But now, the gatekeepers have been cut out, and they know it. In leaked internal notes from a US State Department session on African digital sovereignty obtained by SABN, a top official warned, open quote, if AfriNet becomes standard across AU member states, we lose strategic visibility and digital leverage. Close quote. Translation, they're no longer in control, and it's freaking them out. Part 4, how Africa built AfriNet, the insider moves. This wasn't built in a day. This is a 10-year master plan that the AU kept quiet until it was ready. Let's break it down. 1. Data protection laws passed quietly across Africa. Countries began passing new data protection laws, styled like Europe's GDPR, but tailored for African sovereignty. South Africa passed POPIA, Nigeria passed NDPA, Ghana, Kenya, Senegal, and Rwanda followed suit. But here's what wasn't said publicly. Open quote, these laws were synchronized behind the scenes with AU cybersecurity teams, forming the legal shield for Afrinet. Close quote. Chairman Shadow leaked a quote from a private AU legal roundtable. Open quote. Once we control the law, we can control the cable. Close quote. 2. Data centers and cloud infrastructure built locally. Africa is now home to over 150 regional data centers, including Africa Data Centers in Nairobi, Lagos, Joburg Main One in West Africa, Terako in South Africa, government-backed sovereign clouds in Ethiopia and Ghana. All of them now wired into Afrinet's core network protocols. Open quote, our emails, our financial data, our military communication now sits on African soil. Protocol Black confirmed. Close quote. #3. Internet infrastructure owned at home. According to internal documents from the AU Department of Digital Infrastructure, 19 countries are co-investing in national fiber optic backbones, African-owned satellites, cross-border internet exchange points, IXPs. These are not foreign-owned. They're co-owned by states, citizens, and African ISPs. Afrinet doesn't just exist, it has physical teeth. Part 5, the entrepreneurs who made it happen. What government started, Africa's tech geniuses finished. And now, the West realizes it's not just one platform they're losing, it's the whole market. 1. African cloud providers Go Lane One, Nigeria, Terako, South Africa, Safaricom Cloud, Kenya, Ghana GovCloud. These homegrown clouds are now certified under the AU Afrinet Compliance Protocol. That means no data leaves African borders without approval. Open quote, AWS and Google can bid if they want, says Shadow, but the baseline must be data sovereignty. Close quote. 2. Local platforms take over apps like M-Pesa Jumia, ULESSON Hello Tractor 54 GeneSafe Boda are now moving to Afrinet-hosted servers, cutting dependence on US infrastructure. Open quote, we're not anti-West, we're just pro-African infrastructure, said a Ugandan tech founder. Close quote. 3. African ISPs are taking the lead. In countries like Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, and Mozambique, local internet service providers are now building last-mile connectivity powered by Afrinet protocol routers. And these ISPs are co-signing onto Afrinet's DNS Root Server Alliance, a decentralized network of internet address authorities located across Africa. Yes, bro, Africa now manages its own internet address system. Part 6, the digital moment that exposed the shift. According to leaked intel from AU's Digital Affairs Division, the moment that terrified the West came on a quiet Thursday. During a closed virtual AU Defense Summit held on Afrinet, the system transferred 10 gigabytes of encrypted footage, hosted simultaneous multi-language video streams, monitored 22 African military bases, and blocked US IP tracking requests in real time. Open quote, that's when they knew, said Protocol Black. This isn't theory. Afrinet works. Close quote. Part 7, Street Reactions. The continent feels it. Young coder in Lagos. Open quote. I host my startup on AfroCloud now. No VPNs, no lag, no surveillance. Close quote. Student in Kampala. Open quote. Our school uses AfroTube now. We don't get weird ads or content blocks. Close quote. Vendor in Maputo. Open quote. I take Afro Gold payments via Afrinet QR. My sales doubled. Close quote. Journalist in Dakar, open quote, I report news on AfroFeed. I know my work won't be censored or demonetized, close quote. Part 8, comedy from the cable room. A West African tech minister reportedly told his staff, open quote, tell Washington we're offline, unless they pay in AfroGold, close quote. A meme now circulating on AfroChat shows a US embassy searching Google for how to log into Afrinet. Another tweet reads, open quote, America gave us Facebook, Africa gave them firewalls. Close quote. TANA Part 9, the West's response, denial and strategy meet panic. The US Cyber Command has issued a classified report on Afrinet's encryption. The IMF is exploring digital aid mechanisms to lure African countries back into US networks. Google and Meta are lobbying African leaders to keep servers open. But the AU response? A single line from a leaked speech draft, open quote, Africa is open for trade, but our data, that stays home, close quote. Part 10, where this goes next. According to Chairman Shadow, the next phases of AfriNet are already approved. AfriSearch, the Africa-run search engine now, AfriMail, government-verified email platform, AfroCloud for education, continent-wide student and teacher cloud storage, AfriSecure, the AU's own cybersecurity unit, AfriSat-1, second satellite to go live by end of 2025. Open quote, "We're not unplugging from the world," said Mama Pan Africa. "We're just logging into it as equals now," close quote. Part 11, Takunda's final word. Africa owns the connection now. They said we were behind. They said we needed help to connect. They said we had no servers, no strategy, no skill. But they were wrong. We weren't building followers. We were building firewalls. We weren't just connecting cables. We were connecting purpose. And now, Africa doesn't just access the internet. Africa owns it. Open quote. AfriNet is not a company. It's not an app. It's a declaration. We are no longer digital tenants. We are landlords of our own domain. Close quote. So to the West, thank you for your technology. We'll take it from here. Part 12, call to action. Sabin style, like this video if you believe Africa must control its own digital future. Comment, what platform should Africa build next? AfriTube? AfriPay? AfriDocs? Subscribe to Sabin, Supreme Africa Breaking News, where the leaks are real, and the internet is finally ours. This is Takunda Mabika, reporting from inside the main server vault of African Destiny. Tisuvanu Bacho, the line is secure, the dream is live.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, so we went on at a good pace. And let me just say a couple of things before we wind up for today. And looking forward to Saturday night at 8 o'clock. Same channel, same time, 8 o'clock. But I just don't know what to say, what to do, how to say it, how to do it. It is just a matter of fact. You got to go with our ancestors. They are the ones behind all of what is going on in the world. Now, I'm here to tell you, if they did not like the pale-skinned motherfucking worthless bitches, why are you so concerned about it? Why are you so concerned about holding their hand and singing Kumbaya? They calling you a bunch of niggas, coon, jungle bunny, porch monkey. But in reality, when you got more money than them, you can shut them down and put them into the poorhouse. Who gives a fuck about what they call you? As long as they're calling you at the bank and you say click, that's it. And this is exactly what is happening right now. So let's go forward and declaring NATO as the enemy of Africa. You can't get better than this. Man, fuck white folk. Fuck that white boy. Fuck that white girl. Just fuck them.
Breaking. One Africa government declares NATO enemy of Africa after secret sabotage plot exposed. Family, the fire we carry. I am Takunda Mabika with Supreme Africa Breaking News. Before we get into today's revelation, let me speak straight from the heart as your brother. Family, remember this. YouTube is a Western platform. Stories like these, stories where Africa stands up and declares itself strong, are not the kind of stories the algorithm promotes. The system is not built to push African pride, African wealth, or African unity. That is why I need you. Every like, every share, every comment is more than just an interaction. It is you telling the machine that African children matter, that our voices matter, and that our dream of a united Africa is too important to bury. So family, let's do it together. Share this story with your friends on WhatsApp. Post it in your groups. Tell your cousins. Because the news I am about to tell you is history unfolding in real time. And we, the African children, must not only witness it, but take part in it.
Hold on.
Los grandes sueños empiezan dando pequeños pasos. En GoDaddy.
The plot that sparked it all. It started with whispers from Shadow Unit Zulu, the African Union's most feared and funniest intelligence network. These are not just spies. They are Africa's digital warriors. Zulu hacked into hidden NATO servers, and what they found explains why the AU Parliament finally declared NATO as the official enemy of Africa. The leaks revealed detailed plans of sabotage. NATO generals were preparing to hack Afrinet test servers in Addis Ababa. They wanted to cripple the system before it even launched in 2026. One cargo manifest exposed a NATO aircraft landing in East Africa with containers marked as medical supplies. When Zulu decrypted the contents, the crates turned out to be filled with rifles and surveillance equipment. The most ridiculous find was a PowerPoint slide from NATO strategists complaining that African memes were destabilizing Western narratives. Imagine powerful generals in Brussels sitting around a table, stressing about African TikToks with captions mocking their soldiers. Zulu released screenshots of these slides across African WhatsApp groups with comedy edits, turning NATO panic into meme fuel. The plot was serious, but the way Africa reacted was comedy laced with dignity. Part 2. Parliament turns into a roast. When the leaks reached Addis Ababa, the AU Parliament was summoned for an emergency midnight session. Delegates rushed in, many still chewing roasted maize or sipping cold mahewu. The leaks were read aloud in the chamber. Laughter broke out. One delegate stood up and said that NATO was trying to bring biscuits, but instead carried bullets. The chamber erupted. Another delegate declared that NATO should now be understood as not allowed to operate. Delegates roared with laughter, banging tables, but immediately voted with unity. The final resolution passed with no dissent. NATO was officially declared the enemy of Africa. This was not just symbolic, it carried teeth. No NATO operations would be tolerated on African soil. Any NATO aircraft or ship caught in African air or water would be intercepted. NATO officials would no longer be welcome at AU institutions. The message was crystal. Africa has drawn a line. One Africa Army moved swiftly. While the Parliament roasted NATO, the One Africa Army took action. Outside AU bases in Lagos, Nairobi, Cairo, and Johannesburg, soldiers hoisted banners reading NATO not welcome. Operation Umbrella was activated, an air defense strategy designed to scramble NATO satellite surveillance over Africa. Insiders revealed that within 48 hours, NATO analysts were staring at blank screens, their live feeds from African skies disrupted by Afrinet's pilot shield. Troops on the ground made it a comedy spectacle. In Lagos, soldiers danced in formation to Afrobeat, posting videos with the caption, "Enemy of Africa Challenge." In Cairo, paratroopers filmed themselves eating beans while standing guard, joking that this was the new NATO diet plan. Even in Kinshasa, soldiers repainted old NATO-linked warehouses with the words, "Africa first, NATO last." Part 4. NATO's panic rooms. The leaks did not just embarrass NATO, they threw its headquarters into chaos. In Brussels, alarms went off as the AU resolution spread. Analysts huddled in rooms full of maps, red arrows pointing at Africa, their faces pale. In Washington, one Pentagon official dropped coffee on a classified chart. In London, a minister spilled tea on his lap, while in Paris, advisors dropped croissants mid-bite as they stared at phones buzzing with news of NATO trending alongside the words "enemy of Africa." Western media scrambled. Headlines screamed about Africa's defiance. But Africans online mocked the panic. Memes showed NATO generals carrying wheelbarrows of Afrogold, sweating under the sun. Another showed NATO ships sailing backward out of African waters with captions reading, "No visa, no entry." Part 5. Street-level Africa laughs. The most powerful reaction was on the streets. In Lagos, traders shouted that if Shell must pay Afrogold like everyone else, then NATO must buy a ticket too. In Nairobi, Boda Boda riders painted their motorbikes with the words "NATO taxi, not allowed to operate." In Johannesburg, youth organized comedy rallies holding placards that read "NATO, Uber is that way." From Harare to Dakar, ordinary Africans celebrated the declaration. For once, the giant military alliance that bombed countries, toppled governments, and dictated foreign policy was being laughed at like a confused uncle. Part 6. More Shadow Unit Zulu exposures. Shadow Unit Zulu was not finished. They leaked even more files. One memo showed NATO generals fretting about Africa's meme armies, describing them as more dangerous than drones. Another leak revealed a draft plan titled "How to Stop Afrinet." Africans roasted it online, overlaying the document with captions like "You cannot stop what you cannot log into." In Addis Ababa, graffiti appeared overnight near AUHQ. It read, Episode 1, NATO down. Episode 2, loading. Africans turned politics into storytelling. Every move now felt like a series, unfolding chapter by chapter. Part 7, Why NATO Really Panics. Family, let us not mistake NATO's fear as simple embarrassment. It is deeper. It is survival. Africa holds the cobalt that powers electric cars, the lithium that charges smartphones, the oil and gas that fuel industries, the gold that stabilizes currencies. For decades, NATO protected Western access to these resources. Now with Afronet preparing to cut Western eyes off, AfroGold preparing to rewrite trade rules, and the One Africa Army guarding resources, NATO feels its grip slipping. Their sabotage was not random. It was desperation. They are fighting a future where Africa is no longer a playground, but a powerhouse. Part 8. The Global South responds. This declaration echoed far beyond Africa. In Latin America, activists trended the hashtag enemy of Africa means enemy of us. In Asia, quiet but strong support came from leaders sympathetic to Africa's stand. Even in Europe, ordinary citizens cheered online, saying it was about time Africa stood up. Global solidarity formed instantly. The West tried to paint the AU as reckless, but the Global South saw it as courageous. Part 9. The Sweet Dream Vision. Now let us imagine the dream. A united Africa where NATO cannot dictate policy. A continent where our gold funds schools instead of IMF loans. Where our children learn coding on Afronet, safe from surveillance. Where AfroGold builds railways connecting Cairo to Cape Town. One people, different colors, singing the same song. Yes, we love the world. We want peace with everyone. But first, we must repair the motherland. Only then can we compete with the world as equals. This is not hatred. This is dignity. Africa is not isolating itself. Africa is standing up to say, we will laugh, but we will defend ourselves. One people, one algorithm, one fire family. This was Takunda Mabika with SABN. You heard the story. Shadow Unit Zulu exposed NATO's sabotage. The AU roasted and declared NATO the enemy of Africa. The One Africa Army raised banners, scrambled satellites, and danced while enforcing the decision. NATO panicked. Western leaders dropped coffee, tea, and croissants, while Africa turned fear into laughter. But remember, this movement depends on you. YouTube will not promote this naturally. It is up to us, African children, to tell the algorithm that we exist, that our voices count, that we want the world to hear the rise of Africa. So like this video, comment on it, share it with your friends and family. Let us make sure the world cannot ignore us. One love, one people, different colors. Today we fix Africa so that tomorrow we stand as equals with the world. Africa is rising, laughing, and declaring its power.
All right, well, I'm not one to go along with this different colored bullshit. I mean, you want to have white folks in on your shit too? But maybe that's just a go along to get along kind of thing, and letting them think that is the case. And I hope it is. But you know, fuck all white folks and fuck all the motherfucking Chinese who are there stealing gold. They should be locked up, and everybody else too. So no, with this one people, different colors, man, fuck you. But you know, hold on, let me try to one people. One people, different colors. Fuck that. It's all black only. All right, so I made my comment. So it's going to be one, you guys. You got to keep going and keep moving, keep doing, keep thinking, keep doing and doing and doing. So you'll get there. And that is what faith is all about. Faith is not by sight. It's by simply staying focused and letting your dream come true and unfurling the way that it should be unfurled. Hold on. And it will. One Africa government just left the United Nations, launches new global alliance. Here we go.
World shock. One Africa government just left the United Nations, launches new global alliance. Tisu Van Huvacho. When Africa moves, the world shakes. Hash part 1. The calm before the storm. 2 days ago, we told you about the One Africa Army delegation that landed in New York. Remember? That top secret flight carrying uniformed generals, economic advisors, and a select team of AU diplomats who walked into UN headquarters like they owned the place. The mission back then was straightforward, or so we thought. Negotiate Africa's entry into the United Nations Security Council as a single permanent member. No more 55 small voices begging to be heard. One seat, one vote, one Africa.
There it is.
But something shifted. Our insiders say by the time that delegation left New York, the tone had changed from diplomatic smiles to silent fury. The West wasn't just resisting Africa's rise, they were plotting to delay it another decade. Part 2. Inside the closed-door showdown. This morning at 6:45 CTAT, the One Africa Parliament convened an emergency session in Addis Ababa. No live streams, no press. The doors were shut, the windows sealed, and armed guards stood outside. Chairman Shadow, our ghost inside those marble walls, sent us encrypted notes. His first message was just 5 words. Open quote. They've decided to walk away. Close quote. According to his account, the debate began with AU Commission Chair Mahmoud Ali Yusuf reading a confidential UN memo. The memo reportedly detailed procedural concerns about allowing Africa to join the Security Council as a single entity. Translation? Stall tactics. Mama Pan Africa, the firebrand diplomat from the AU's Department of Political Affairs, stood up and reportedly said, open quote, the UN needs Africa more than Africa needs the UN. Close quote. The room erupted in applause. Part 3. The vote that changed history. The decision was not unanimous, but it was overwhelming. Out of 55 national delegations, 49 voted in favor of immediately exiting the United Nations. The holdouts? A handful of leaders still clinging to old bilateral aid agreements. The motion's language was simple. Withdraw from the UN General Assembly within 90 days. Cease participation in all UN-funded programs except humanitarian aid, pending review. Redirect Africa's diplomatic resources to a new global alliance under African leadership. Part 4. Birth of the Global South Unity Alliance, GSUA. Sources tell us the name is provisional, but the vision is crystal clear. The Global South Unity Alliance would be an economic, political, and security coalition led by the African Union, BRICS members, and selected non-aligned nations.
In other words,
proposed founding members. African Union bloc, 55 states, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, BRICS, Indonesia, Mexico, Venezuela, Iran, and possibly Saudi Arabia. Headquarters, split between Addis Ababa and Johannesburg with an annual rotating presidency. Primary goals, end resource exploitation through collective bargaining. Establish AfroGold as a common settlement currency. Create a peacekeeping force immune to Western vetoes. Build an independent internet and satellite navigation network. Part 5. The West's reaction. Within hours of the leak, Western capitals went into overdrive. Washington issued a statement calling Africa's exit a regrettable move with destabilizing potential. Paris warned of serious consequences for African trade access to European markets. But here's what our sources inside the French Foreign Ministry told us. Open quote. They are terrified. This is a diplomatic earthquake. Close quote. One US diplomat allegedly said in private, open quote, if Africa pulls out, the UN loses a third of its moral legitimacy overnight, close quote. What triggered the final straw? Multiple insiders confirmed that the breaking point came during a dinner in New York between African delegates and a group of Western ambassadors. One European official allegedly joked that Africa should prove itself before expecting a Security Council seat. That remark, according to Chairman Shadow, was met with cold silence and quiet fury. The next morning, the African delegation drafted a withdrawal motion on the flight back to Addis. Part 7. The economic angle. The GSUA would not just be a political club, it would be an economic weapon. Under the proposed charter, member nations would trade with each other using Afrogold, bypassing the US dollar. The alliance would also establish a Global South Development Bank, headquartered in Johannesburg, funded by contributions from all members, including oil-rich nations in the Middle East. The idea is simple. If the West wants African resources, they pay Africa's price, not the market price set in London or New York. Part 8. Military implications. General Umoja, the retired peacekeeping commander now advising the AU on security matters, has reportedly been tasked with drafting the GSUA's defense framework. His concept: merge African Union standby forces with BRICS military coordination to create a Global South Defense Pact. That means, in theory, if one member is attacked, all respond. For the first time since the Cold War, the West could face a truly unified non-Western military bloc. Part 9. Symbolism of the move. Leaving the UN is not just bureaucracy, it's symbolism. For decades, the UN has been sold as the world's table for peace and equality. But in practice, 5 nations hold the power to veto the rest of the planet. Africa has had to beg for crumbs of influence, even while holding the majority of the world's rare earth minerals, gold, and fresh water. This move says, we are done begging. Part 10. What happens next? The withdrawal clock is ticking. Once the formal letter hits the UN Secretary General's desk, the countdown begins. In the next 90 days, African embassies in New York will either be repurposed for GSUA operations or shut down entirely. AU delegations are already in talks with BRICS leaders to finalize the GSUA founding treaty. Part 11. Risks and challenges. Of course, leaving the UN is not without risks. Some African nations rely heavily on UN peacekeeping forces, development funds, and technical support. The GSUA will have to replace those structures quickly to prevent instability. There's also the risk of targeted sanctions, travel bans, and asset freezes on African leaders. But according to Mama Pan Africa, open quote, they can freeze our assets, but they cannot freeze Africa's future. Close quote. The dream that keeps growing for ordinary Africans, this move has become more than politics. It's a dream. Social media, at least the African-run platforms, are flooded with artwork of a united Africa standing tall against a collapsing old order. Some call it risky, others call it destiny. And here at Saban, we say, Tisu Vanhu Vacho, the people who will not only witness history, but shape it. Final line for your outro. If one Africa walks away from the UN and builds its own world order, we may be watching the birth of the most powerful Africa in history. The question is, are you ready for it?
Oh yeah, we are ready. You heard it right here. The new UN is black control. And so when we begin to see the black man speak, the world's gonna sit its fucking asses down, shut the fuck up, and do what the fuck we tell you. Period. Alright? There's no more playing, there's no more acting, there's no more nothing. United we stand and take over, but divided we fall and stand in the same shithole. We're not staying. We're telling you what we are going to do. We do it. You shut the fuck up, you sit the fuck down, and you do what we tell you to do, white boy. But you done fucked up. $36 trillion in debt, America. $4 trillion in France alone, not counting all of Europe. You broke, motherfucker. In America, you were given 250 million acres of land. Free, bitches. And you fucked all that up. You had 200 plus years of advantages, a head start, and you fucked all that up. You don't know what the fuck you doing. You're just talking shit. That's all you're doing. You're just like a bunch of fucking flies landing on shit. That's all you do. And black people are like bees. We manufacture honey, we pollinate other plants, we work in tandem, and you know, for a bee to waste its time talking to you shitty motherfucking pale skin, it's a waste of time. It is a waste of time to tell you that honey tastes better than shit. But you ain't gonna never understand that because we civilized you motherfuckers 3 times. 3 fucking times. And you still ain't got it. So, like in baseball, strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, you're done. You're out. So now, let's keep it moving. One African Parliament just voted to kick out all IMF and World Bank offices. Here you go.
Breaking. One Africa Parliament just voted to kick out all IMF and World Bank offices. By Takunda Mabika, Supreme Africa Breaking News. Tisu Vanhu Bacho. This is not another meeting. This is not another report. This is Africa standing up and finally saying enough is enough. Ladies and gentlemen, gather around. The One Africa Parliament has allegedly just passed its most explosive resolution yet to remove every single International Monetary Fund and World Bank office from African soil. Yes, you heard that right. The same financial landlords who've been breathing on our necks since independence might be packing their bags. So smash that like button like you're canceling debt, subscribe like your financial freedom depends on it, and comment below. Do you support Africa saying goodbye to Bretton Woods? Let's break it down, from the moment the Parliament doors opened to the moment Africa said, get out. Part 1. The motion that shook the walls. It was early morning in Addis Ababa. Parliamentarians from across all 5 African regions filed into the iconic Pan-African chamber wearing kente, Maasai cloth, agbadas, suits, and even designer drip, because when you're kicking out colonial banks, you gotta look good doing it. The motion was introduced by a fiery delegate from West Africa. Let's just say his nickname on the ground is Honorable Anti-Debt. His words were loud, clear, and unfiltered. He said, for decades, we have borrowed money tied with invisible ropes. Every dollar came with a diplomat. Every loan came with a lecture. Today, we declare Africa financially independent. The chamber erupted. Applause, cheers. And even some old MPs trying to dance a Zonto. Part 2, the reason behind the move. Let's be honest, the IMF and World Bank have been in Africa for over 60 years. But what's changed? We still have hospitals without medicine, schools without chairs, miners working while billionaires fly in for pictures. And most importantly, loans with interest so high, even your auntie in Mukando Savings Group would say no. According to SABN Economic Insiders, the breaking point came after a confidential audit showed that 73% of African debt repayments in 2024 went toward interest, not principal. Imagine paying rent for a house that keeps shrinking. Part 3, leaked minutes from the closed session. Insider Protocol Black, who was operating the translation earpieces in Parliament, managed to record parts of the heated debate. One MP from Central Africa reportedly said, "We don't hate the West. We just love ourselves more now." Another delegate from Southern Africa added, "If you want to help us, stop charging us to breathe." And the final punch? One East African female MP, dressed in full presidential elegance, stood and said, "IMF is like a bad ex. They always say they've changed, but every time you give them another chance, you end up with nothing but tears, conditions, and confusion." Part 4, the actual vote. The motion was put to a formal vote at 11:43 a.m. local time. Out of 101 regional representatives present, 93 voted yes to expel all IMF and World Bank offices. 6 voted no. 2 abstained, reportedly because their countries still have active IMF grants being dispersed this month and didn't want to miss rent present. The gavel dropped. The chamber fell silent. Then a slow clap. Then a cheer. Then someone started singing Bob Marley. Part 5. What happens next? Now, before we start building bonfires in the streets, let's talk process. This vote doesn't automatically eject the IMF and World Bank overnight, but it triggers a diplomatic sequence. Step 1. AU chairperson will send a formal communique to all IMF and World Bank offices requesting withdrawal timelines. Step 2. Regional economic blocs, say ECOWAS, EAC, etc., will coordinate local enforcement. Step 3. AU legal team will propose new financial oversight frameworks to replace foreign institutions, possibly through the African Monetary Institute. And step 4. All buildings, assets, and records left behind by the IMF and World Bank will be placed under AU custody and reviewed by the Anti-Corruption Task Force. Translation: If you're IMF and you left your office printer on, you better come get it now. Part 6, International Meltdown. As news of the vote spread, Western financial media entered what can only be described as a mini panic attack. One British journalist tweeted, if Africa removes IMF oversight, the whole continent could descend into fiscal chaos. Meanwhile, an American commentator said on live TV, Africa needs guidance. They can't just run their economies alone. Excuse me? Alone? With what? Our own gold, oil, copper, cobalt, uranium, diamonds, and 60% of the world's arable land. Maybe it's not that we're going alone. Maybe we're just done being followed. Part 7. The U hits back. Within 2 hours of those comments, the AU Communications Department, led by Mama Pan Africa, dropped a one-liner so savage it trended instantly. She simply said, Africa is not a child. We are the womb of the earth. That line went viral. Memes flooded the timeline. One had a pregnant Africa silhouette with tiny IMF and World Bank figures crying outside a closed uterus gate. Caption, re-entry denied. Part 8, France loses it. You knew France was going to overreact. According to leaked diplomatic cables, French officials have already requested an emergency meeting with select African ambassadors to discuss concerns over economic cooperation and military logistics. Military logistics? Oh, so it wasn't just loans. It was also about the bases, the influence, and the control. Well, surprise. The parliament vote just triggered a continent-wide review of all foreign installations linked to colonial-era treaties. Translation. If you're France and you still have 3,000 soldiers in the Sahel, you might want to start packing lunch and fuel. Part 9. The youth response. Across Africa, the youth lit up with joy. In Nairobi, students marched holding signs saying, cancel the debt. We want dreams, not loans. In Accra, a group of teenagers created a dance challenge called Loan Delete, where you literally mime wiping out a calculator with your forehead. In Lagos, TikTokers launched the IMF is not my portion campaign, featuring skits of aunties refusing shady contracts. And in Harare, a group of university students created an app called Kwacha Coin, designed to trade Afro-gold-backed savings across borders. Young Africa is not waiting. They're building. Part 10, the Billboard War. You thought billboards were for politicians? Nah. As the IMF crisis exploded, African cities lit up with bold new slogans. In Addis Ababa, we can count. We just stopped counting on you. In Dakar, IMF left so we can breathe. In Johannesburg, from aid to Afrogold, Africa's new direction. And in Kampala, no more loans with hidden clauses. One African influencer even posted, if IMF and World Bank truly helped, why are we still poor? Part 11, China and Russia take notes. You already know China was watching this parliament vote with green tea in hand. Insiders say Chinese diplomats have already requested a meeting with the AU Finance Council, not to lend money, but to co-develop Africa's new financial audit software. Meanwhile, Russia has reportedly offered to help secure AU gold reserves in high-security bunkers. This isn't charity. This is business. Africa now has leverage. Part 12. The final word from the President of the Parliament. At the end of the vote, the President of the One Africa Parliament stood up, and with no script, no teleprompter, and no hesitation, he delivered this closing statement. From the heart. Let the world know, Africa is not rejecting partnership. We are rejecting puppetry. From this day on, no deal will be signed without dignity. No loan will be accepted without sovereignty. And no African child will be told their dreams must come with debt. The chamber stood in silence, then thunderous applause. A new chapter had begun. Final word. This is not fiction. This is what accountability looks like. One Africa Parliament has made a decision, not just for politicians, but for you, me, our grandparents, and our grandchildren. We've been loaned into confusion. Now we are waking up with clarity. We've been conditioned to think poverty is our fault. Now we're realizing it was part of someone's profit plan. The IMF and World Bank walked into Africa wearing suits, but when we asked for results, they handed us reports. Now we're handing them boarding passes. So to every African watching this, lift your head. Your continent just made history. Smash that like button if you believe Africa must write its own financial future. Subscribe to SayBN for more stories that show you the power of your people. And comment below. What would you do if Africa was finally debt-free? Tisu Banhu Bacho. One Africa. One Parliament. One destiny.
Africa is free. The richest continent? Are you fucking kidding me? The richest continent on the planet. It had debt. Get the fuck out. Traore and Burkina Faso found literally a mountain of gold. $20 trillion. If that don't tell you what the fuck is going on, I don't know what I got to say to you. It is what it is, baby. Because now we big pimping. Yeah, what the fuck? We don't need to ask nobody for shit. They need to come and ask us for $1 and a dime. Okay, so now, up until this point, you should be able to see what is going on. The world is coming back home. The size of Africa is 14 times the size of what you normally see on a map, which means every other continent can fit inside of it with enough space for more. And so now, in this video, you see Asia splits. China and India back AU, or African Union. Japan and South Korea side with the U.S. They're not going to be siding with the U.S. for too much longer. Let's get into it.
Breaking. Asia splits. China and India back AU. Japan and South Korea side with U.S. By Takuna Mabika, Supreme Africa Breaking News. Tisu Vanhu Bacho. This is not a drill. This is not a trend. This is World War diplomacy. Part 1. The new non-aligned movement. But louder. Forget everything you thought you knew about East versus West. The new power line is being drawn through Africa. The continent that used to be the battlefield is now the scoreboard. And the world? They're all picking sides. Leaked diplomatic memos obtained by our insiders, from Chairman Shadow to Mama Pan Africa, confirm that for the first time in modern history, Asia itself is divided over Africa. Yes, Africa is now so powerful it's splitting continents. On one side, China and India, the Asian heavyweights, nuclear giants, economic supernovas, who have both officially declared their support for the One Africa government. On the other side, Japan and South Korea, two of America's closest friends, who have now entered talks with the Pentagon and White House over how to, quote, manage African integration and block strategic resources.
Are you interested in meaningful connections? Try this platform. Here you may find new emotions.
You thought WW3 would start in the Middle East? It might just begin in Addis Ababa, in the marble halls of the new AU Supreme Parliament. Part 2. Afrogold was the last straw. Let's remind viewers what SABN has already reported. First, we told you about Afrogold, the new continental currency backed by gold reserves, mining rights, and land assets from 44 of 55 African nations. Then we showed you how Afronet, the new internet backbone, cut off backdoor surveillance from the West. Then came the massive tariffs on IMF and World Bank offices, the eviction of 49 foreign military bases, and now, the One Africa Supreme Law Court issuing secret warrants for Western sabotage. So when India and China sat down this week during the Kigali Resource Summit, they reportedly pledged full support to One Africa, including diplomatic protection and trade expansion using Afrogold. Meanwhile, sources from Protocol Black confirm that South Korea and Japan have been secretly invited to a US-led summit codenamed Operation Pacific Fence, where they allegedly discussed setting up an anti-Afrogold economic firewall. Part 3. The AU playing chess while the world panics. What people forget is that the AU has been preparing for this moment for years. The African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, was just the beginning. With the launch of One Africa Central Bank and the quiet activation of Zone A, the new trade shipping corridor that links West Africa to India's eastern ports, the infrastructure was already being laid. India? They see opportunity. Cheap energy from Africa, fast digital markets through Afronet, and a chance to finally outgrow China in regional influence. That's why India's Prime Minister sent a private envoy to Addis Ababa last week to finalize Afrogold trade integration by 2026. China? They see control. They've already built 31 data centers in Africa, are powering Afronet's hardware backbone, and are now planning the first Afrogold reserve bank outside Africa, in Shanghai. Japan and South Korea, however, see danger. They're worried that if Africa becomes too strong, their manufacturing dependency on African minerals will push them into second-tier economies. So what do? Team up with Uncle Sam and NATO. Again. Part 4. Shadow Unit Zulu picks up chatter. Now let's go deep. Shadow Unit Zulu, the elite African surveillance team deployed across foreign embassies, intercepted a conversation between US and Japanese operatives discussing a digital containment strategy. This includes plans to fund alternative platforms to Afronet, allegedly destabilize Afrogold's reserve chain through offshore hacking, and use African-based influencers to spread doubt. The files also show keywords like Mali, Nigeria, Kenya, clear targets for economic pressure. But guess what? AU Cyber Command has already responded by encrypting Afrogold with a military-grade triple blockchain and deploying AfroGuard AI systems on Afronet. In simple terms, the West blinked first. Part 5. India's secret weapon, youth and markets. Let's not forget India is playing a long game. With over 1.4 billion people, half under 30, India's economic future depends on scale, and where better to scale than Africa? Already, Indian entrepreneurs are partnering with young African tech hubs in Kenya, Rwanda, Ghana, and Tunisia to create Afro-Indus, a cross-border startup fund. Afro-Indus will launch with $200 million to empower youth building tools for Afronet, Afropay, and even AU surveillance satellites. Why is this important? Because it shows India is not just backing Africa to counter China, they're betting on Africa's youth. Meanwhile, what is Japan offering? Bullet trains in cities where electricity still goes out every week. Part 6. China wants to manage the gold. Our sources also confirm that China is now lobbying for control of the Afrogold pricing algorithm, a controversial software currently housed in Zimbabwe and South Africa. China argues they have the most advanced digital infrastructure and can stabilize volatility. But critics, including General Umoja and Mama Pan Africa, fear this would give Beijing too much leverage, especially with 60% of Afrogold-backed minerals passing through Chinese logistics. It's a tense negotiation. Africa wants help building the new financial world, but not at the cost of ownership. Part 7. BRICS no longer unified. Another twist in the story. The BRICS alliance is cracking, with Brazil and Russia pushing for a digital-only Afrogold derivative and South Africa wanting stronger regulation from the One Africa Parliament. The alliance is no longer on the same page. India and China have broken ranks. They now believe that only through Africa's success can they decenter the US dollar. Meanwhile, Russia is still dealing with sanctions, and Brazil is stuck in its own political drama. That's why India and China are going all in with Africa. They see something others are too slow to realize. The future is being written in Kiswahili and coded in Kigali. Part 8, Pentagon briefing leaked. Now let's turn to the American side. A leaked Pentagon briefing titled Red Continent confirms fears in Washington. The document describes Africa as an emerging superbloc with independent currency, AI-controlled data infrastructure, continent-wide borderless trade, centralized military command, global alliances forming fast mouth. The report concludes with a chilling statement. If Asia splits, America loses Africa. If America loses Africa, it loses the global south. If it loses the global south, the world order collapses. You thought this was just about gold? This is about
the white world order is quickly changing to a new world order based on black.
Who owns the 21st century? Part 9. What Japan and South Korea want. Let's be fair. Japan and South Korea have genuine fears. Both nations depend heavily on US military support, and both have almost no natural resources. Their biggest fear is that Afrogold could eventually replace the dollar and euro in raw material trade, forcing them to buy energy and minerals at rates they can't control. That's why both countries have begun working on a backup, the Digital Island Pact, a rumored new initiative to create a digital trade bloc between East Asia, the Pacific, and African coastal elites who reject one Africa. But that's where they'll fail, because Africa is no longer begging for deals. Africa is designing them. Part 10. One Africa diplomats play the long game. Now here's the beauty. While the world is panicking, Africa's top diplomats are sipping mint tea in Cape Verde, hosting the Afro-Asia Cultural Festival, using food, music, fashion, and entrepreneurship to build emotional bridges between the continents. Chairman Shadow confirmed to us that over 61 Asian envoys have now requested bilateral AfroGold access through the AU Finance Commission, bypassing the IMF. Meanwhile, the One Africa government is finalizing AfroLink, a digital portal where foreign allies can trade, invest, and apply for partnership with the African Union directly. In short, Africa is making it easier for friends to join. But for enemies, harder than ever to sabotage. Part 11. Internal warnings from the AU Intelligence Council. Not all is rosy, though. Our source, General Umoja, has issued a quiet internal warning. The more support Africa receives from China and India, the more the US-Japan bloc will respond through indirect warfare. This could include funding African opposition parties, launching trade lawsuits through old colonial treaties, or even deploying mercenary firms to destabilize border zones. In fact, we've already seen suspicious military shipments heading to East Africa, and Shadow Unit Zulu is on high alert. But the One Africa Intelligence Council is prepared. Their motto, unity is security. Part 12, a message to all Africans watching. Let's close with the most important part. Dear Africans, wherever you are in the world, understand this. This is not just diplomacy. This is legacy. For the first time in modern history, the world is dividing itself over you. Not because of war, not because of oil, but because of your power to build, unite, and rise. You are the variable that changes everything. Do not sleep on what's happening. Speak about it, share it, build with it, invest in it, vote for it, pray for it. Because the world's future is being shaped by how Africa chooses its friends. China and India are reaching out. Japan and South Korea are playing defense. And the United States? Well, they're watching nervously. So, what side of history will you stand on? This is Takunda Mabika, reporting for Supreme Africa Breaking News. And remember, Tisu Banhu Vacho.
All right, so we're running it down, making good progress. But I just want to make sure that you guys get in the best of what I can offer, unencumbered by my opinion and my feeling. These are facts, and the fact is that there's a new day dawning, and that day is black supremacy, black superiority over the white boy. We have to come to the realization that our ancestors is us. We are our ancestors, and they did not like these motherfuckers. Fuck all white folk, fuck all of what they're talking about, because they ain't talking about a damn thing, because they ain't got shit. You have to realize that, and you have to honor our ancestors so that we can and we will be blessed by them. So this one is very important. We don't have any motherfucking friends. Let's go.
Insider leak. CIA and MI6 agents caught in Nairobi with plans to hack Afronet pilot. By Takunda Mabika. Supreme Africa Breaking News. Tisu Banhu Vacho. My fellow Africans, welcome back to Sabien, the only community where we hear the truth first from the ground for the people. I hope you are ready, because today we enter the danger zone. Because this just in, a secret intelligence bust in Kenya has just shaken the digital foundations of Africa's future. According to an exclusive leak received by Sabien, elite operatives from the United States Central Intelligence Agency and the United Kingdom's MI6 were allegedly caught inside a secure Nairobi location, and not by mistake. These men were caught red-handed with highly sophisticated tools designed to sabotage Afronet, Africa's own internet. And no, this is not a drill. This is a cyber attack against the future of our people. But don't worry, we are here to expose it. Because as Africans, it's time we take our place in the global digital empire. Let's go. Part 1, the bigger story. What is Afronet, and why are they afraid? Before we unpack this international scandal, let's remind ourselves what's at stake here. If this is your first time hearing about Afrinet, know this. It's Africa's first ever continent-owned internet infrastructure, created by African engineers, hosted on African soil, powered by African fiber lines, and regulated by African governments through the One Africa government's new digital commission. It means no more relying on America's Google servers in California. No more begging Elon Musk's Starlink for coverage. No more routing our African WhatsApp texts through German data centers just to talk to our aunt in Ghana. Afrinet is Africa's long overdue digital independence. And as we've reported in past CBN episodes, the pilot programs have already launched in Zimbabwe, Ghana, and Kenya. In fact, the One Africa government froze selected Google and Facebook servers in Harare to protect the Afrinet zone, a move that shook Silicon Valley and created quiet tension between the AU and the West. So now the question becomes, what happens when Western powers realize their digital chokehold on Africa is being broken? They start to panic. And when they panic,
este es uno de los mejores controles Bluetooth para juegos multiplataforma que podrás encontrar en Temu, ya que
they send spies. Part 2. What happened in Nairobi? SABN Insider Report. According to a classified file leaked to SABN by our deep AU insider, known only as Protocol Black, a joint surveillance operation by the AU's Cyber Defense Unit and Shadow Unit Zulu discovered an unauthorized private intelligence operation in Nairobi last Friday at 2:47 a.m. What was found inside? 3 foreign men. One posing as a telecom consultant from a European aid group. The second claiming to be an American infrastructure advisor. The third? No documents, no name, just a laptop, satellite equipment, and a cold stare that said he's done this before. All 3 men were operating out of a rented safe house located just 2 kilometers from the AU's regional Afrinet data center in Nairobi. Inside that house, encrypted hard drives, router scramblers, network traffic spoofers, fake AU staff IDs, and shockingly, a small server rack designed to intercept internal fiber traffic in real time. In plain African English, these guys weren't tourists. They were foreign government agents, and they were preparing to hack Afrinet's pilot infrastructure from inside Nairobi. Part 3. What was their mission? According to AU cyber engineers interviewed by SABN, the suspects were targeting a crucial phase in the Afrinet launch sequence, the firmware integrity protocol, which ensures that only AU-approved software can control the continent's internet traffic. In other words, these guys were trying to implant a logic bomb, a hidden code that lies dormant until the system goes public, then suddenly corrupts the software, causes downtime, reroutes data, or even shuts it down. The plan was perfect. Strike now, while the system is still in pilot. Make the AU look like fools. Get African presidents to abandon the program. Open the door for Google, Facebook, and Elon Musk to say, see, we told you Africa can't handle its own internet. Let us handle it for you. That was the play, until they got caught. Part 4, the Shadow Unit Zulu interception. This is where things get beautiful, because as we've reported before, Africa is no longer sleeping. The One Africa government, with support from regional intelligence chiefs and digital security experts, created Shadow Unit Zulu, a secret task force with one job: stop internal and external sabotage of Africa's digital sovereignty. And brother, they're doing their job well. It was Shadow Unit Zulu, together with Kenyan cyber teams, that flagged abnormal server pings inside the Nairobi data zone. Those pings traced back to a router that was not on the AU's official list. That's when they launched what insiders are calling Operation Firewall Nairobi. At exactly 2:47 a.m., 11 operatives entered the safe house, seized the suspects, secured the hardware, and handed them over to the AU's Cyber Threat Tribunal in Addis Ababa. No casualties, no gunshots, just precision. African precision. Part 5. AU insiders react. This is war. Now, this is where it gets serious. Our insider Mama Pan Africa, a high-ranking AU security official, says this incident confirms what many of them already feared. The West is treating Africa's digital independence as a threat, not a partner. She says this operation was not a rogue mission. It had backing, it had funding, and it followed a pattern of sabotage we've seen before. NGOs getting banned, foreign banks freezing AfroGold accounts, and now spies trying to destroy Afrinet before it spreads. According to Chairman Shadow, a top AU strategic advisor, this isn't just a hack. It's a cyber declaration of war. He says the AU has already summoned emergency meetings with cybersecurity councils across SAC, ECOWAS, and EAC to harden digital defenses before the February 2026 rollout. Meanwhile, General Umoja, head of AU military cyber ops, says if the suspects are convicted, this will be the first case to be tried in the new One Africa Cyber Court, sending a powerful message that espionage in the digital era will not go unpunished. Hash part 6, why the West is scared of Afrinet. Let's be honest. Afrinet is not just about internet. It's about power. Once Afrinet launches, all government communications can happen securely without passing through foreign cables. All AfroGold currency transactions can be monitored and protected from foreign manipulation. African media and social apps can rise without being shadow banned by Silicon Valley. Military bases, drone fleets, and intelligence agencies can coordinate on encrypted African servers. That means no more spying, no more backdoors, no more backhand deals. And here's the painful truth. The entire Western intelligence infrastructure, CIA, NSA, GCHQ, MI6, is built on access. They need to see everything to stay in control. Afrinet shuts the blinds. No wonder they part 7. What happens next? So what's next? First, the AU has now expanded Afrinet's cybersecurity command, installing air-gapped servers, hardware firewalls, and continent-wide intrusion detection systems. Second, countries participating in the Afrinet pilot have been told to immediately audit all NGO-backed tech initiatives, telecom partnerships, and undersea cable contractors. Trust has been broken. Third, the AU is now proposing a digital sovereignty law, a new legislation that would make it illegal for any foreign entity to operate digital infrastructure inside African cyberspace without express parliamentary approval. And finally, SABN has confirmed that more arrests could be coming. This was not a 3-man operation. The network is wider, and Africa's intelligence is now watching like never before. Part 8, a word to the people. Wake up, share this, support Afrinet, brothers and sisters. I say this from the bottom of my African heart. Afrinet is not just a project. It's a war of identity, a war of ownership, a war of visibility. The same way they don't want us to control our own gold with AfroGold. The same way they didn't want us to form the One Africa Army. The same way they cry foul every time we take steps toward unity. That's the same way they're trying to destroy Afrinet from the inside. But let me ask you something. If Google was invented in Africa, if Facebook was hosted in Tanzania, if Starlink satellites were built in Rwanda, would they ever let us control their data? Never. So why do they think they have the right to control ours? It's time to stand up, not with violence, but with action. Support the One Africa government. Support Afrinet. Support this channel, Supreme Africa Breaking News, because this story will never trend unless you make it trend. YouTube is a Western platform. It does not promote content like this by default. So it's up to you. Like, comment, share, repost, make noise, push it through the algorithm. And remember, here at SABN, we are not asking to be better than anyone. We are just saying Africa deserves to finally compete on equal terms. One love, one internet, one people. We are African children, and our motherland deserves a future worth logging into. Tisu Vanhu Vacho, Takunda Mabika signing out, but not for long, because the next leak is already on its way.
Wow. That's all I can say is wow. Because now, you should be able to see it's over. It's over, guys. It's over. So now we have a United States of Africa Supreme Court with its supreme law controlling its border. We have our own whatever Shadow Unit Zulu. Yeah, that's what it is. And it's just gonna get better and better and better. Nobody can do it better than us. Fuck what you heard. I want to know what you know, baby. It's it. This is it. White folks are scared shitless. They don't know what the fuck. They don't know whether they shit or go blind. And to be honest, they blind anyway. And they wouldn't know how to pour piss out of a boot, even if the direction said turn up. They're just dumb. But somehow, some way, they confuse the world and fool the world into making themselves look smarter than everybody else. They're doing it in a motherfucker. So, this video, the African Union Supreme Law Court issued warrant for U.S. and U.K. officials over Africa coup attempts. They got a couple of them. The Shadow Unit Zulu ain't no motherfucking joke, cuz. Let's go.
US and UK officials over Africa coup attempts. By Takunda Mavika. Supreme Africa breaking news. Tisu Banhuvacho. Welcome to the Rich Africa Resistance Files. This is not the Africa they expected. This is not the script they wrote. This is the AU Supreme Law Court. And they just flipped the entire game board. Because today, we're not talking about Africa getting colonized. Today, we're talking about Africa issuing arrest warrants for Western officials. Yes, you heard that right. Confidential insiders from inside the AU Legal Bureau have just revealed that the African Union Supreme Law Court, in a sealed session, has officially issued classified arrest warrants for several high-level operatives from the United States and the United Kingdom over attempted coups, sabotage missions, and economic warfare linked to the One Africa government rollout. Let's break it down. Part 1. The silent court that wasn't supposed to exist. So first, what the hell is the AU Supreme Law Court? If you've been watching Saben, you already know. This isn't your ordinary court. This is the continental legal beast formed behind closed doors during the One Africa transition process, designed specifically to prosecute crimes against Africa's unification and sovereignty. A kind of Nuremberg for neocolonialism. It was quietly greenlit under the Emergency Powers Clause of the African Unity Treaty in late 2024. No fanfare, no press conference, just a black carpet meeting between AU legal heads, military intelligence, and 4 rotating judges from the Continental Bench. Now, according to insider leaks from Protocol Black, this court has been meeting in private for the past 9 months, and this week, they finally struck. Part 2, the targets. Not just diplomats. The sealed warrants, seen only by a handful of high-level AU security agents, list 7 names from the US and UK diplomatic and intelligence community. These are not low-level clerks. These are policy architects, corporate partners, military strategists, and digital warfare specialists. According to the files, they were directly involved in destabilizing AfroGold before its 2026 rollout, sabotaging AfroNet servers during beta tests in Nairobi and Accra, funding anti-AU protest movements under the guise of NGOs, and even attempting to infiltrate the Shadow Unit Zulu Yes. They tried to infiltrate Shadow Unit Zulu. I mean, you can't make this up. One AU military lawyer reportedly described their actions as an attempt to digitally recolonize the continent while pretending to offer aid. That's not aid, that's Trojan horse diplomacy. Part 3, the smoking gun, a war over infrastructure. The AU has quietly collected over 2 terabytes of evidence, emails, satellite pings, bank transactions, corporate contracts, even leaked WhatsApp voice notes between foreign contractors talking about crashing the AfroGold launch using back-end influence on global financial systems. One text even mentioned using African presidents as puppets to pause the timeline. But here's the kicker. 2 of the US officials under warrant were in Ethiopia last year for trade talks. Turns out they had unauthorized access to data centers involved in AfroNet's Continental Cloud pilot. And conveniently, 2 weeks after they left, the system crashed in 6 countries. Coincidence? The AU Supreme Law Court said, nope, they called it what it was, an act of digital warfare. Part 4, the global panic. Washington and London react. The moment word leaked about the sealed warrants, panic set in. Not publicly, but you could feel the diplomatic heat rise. Multiple African ambassadors received mysterious requests from US and UK consulates asking to verify any legal activities under AU judiciary not shared with the UN. One AU diplomat was overheard saying they're scared of a precedent. Because if Africa can arrest them, what next? Will Latin America try? Will Southeast Asia follow? The White House hasn't officially commented, but our DC insider, General Silence, claims that a private emergency meeting was held between State Department legal counsel and top Pentagon Cyber Command. Apparently, they're still trying to figure out if this AU court even has legal standing. But let me break it to them gently. Africa is not asking for permission anymore. Part 5, the Afro-Gold War. They thought we'd fold. Let's be honest. This has always been about Afro-Gold. The moment Africa announced a new gold-backed continental currency, the Western financial machine went from "let's help Africa" to "let's stop them." That's when the sabotage began. First, they tried to discredit the currency. Then they funded bots to spread fake inflation reports on African financial forums. When that failed, they turned to what they always do: covert pressure, bribery, and staged instability. They even tried to offer $500 million in aid to stop the rollout, which the AU rejected like a bad Tinder match. The result? A full-on economic and digital war against the One Africa movement. And now, Africa is finally punching back. Part 6, the One Africa Court Strategy. Hit them where it hurts. The AU legal team isn't playing games. According to insiders, this is phase 1 of a 3-part retaliation doctrine. Phase 1, warrants. Phase 2, continental sanctions against Western companies linked to sabotage. Phase 3, asset seizures of foreign NGOs and military facilities if found complicit. These legal moves are symbolic, surgical, and savage. They know the West won't send their officials to African court. But that's not the point. The point is to put the world on notice. If you interfere with our future, your name will be dragged through our courts and our history books. Hatch Part 7, the courtroom drama. Comedy Inside One. Insider from the court told SABN something hilarious. Apparently, during one hearing, a British lawyer tried to argue that the African Union's legal instruments do not override the global rules of diplomatic immunity. The judge replied, "In your system, maybe. But here, we don't issue immunity to invaders disguised as investors." Another moment, one of the AU prosecutors played a slide of social media bots spreading anti-Afro-Gold propaganda, then zoomed in and said, "Funny how they all post from the same apartment in Virginia." The courtroom laughed. Then someone added, "At least use better VPNs next time." Even justice has jokes in Africa. Part 8, Shadow Unit Zulu's involvement. You already know, where there's smoke, Shadow Unit Zulu is breathing fire. Sources say Shadow Unit Zulu has already been tracking the movements of some of these foreign operatives since 2023. One suspect is reportedly tied to weapons smuggling in Sudan, which was used to destabilize peacekeeping zones under AU control. Another allegedly tried to bribe a local telecom exec in Kigali to install backdoors in Afrinet routers.
Reverse type 2 diabetes in record time. Put 1 drop of this revolutionary liquid under your tongue after every meal for 7.
Shadow Zulu has not confirmed anything officially, but insiders say 2 suspects linked to this coup attempt are already in AU custody, somewhere along the Eritrean coast. Don't ask how they got there. Just know they're not going home anytime soon. Why the West is terrified. This is not about jail time. This is about global legitimacy. If Africa sets a new standard, where continental justice systems can prosecute Western crimes on African soil, the entire post-colonial system starts to crack. This is why the UK is reportedly preparing to challenge the AU's legal sovereignty at the ICC. But it's too late, because Africans are now the judges, and the courtrooms are already in session. We're not begging anymore. We're sentencing.
International Criminal Court, ICC.
What happens next? The AU Legal Council is reportedly preparing an inter-African broadcast to explain these legal actions to the people, a kind of State of the Justice Union update. Expect to hear new terms like Continental Criminal Code, Digital Sovereignty Protection Laws, Anti-Neo-Colonial Crimes Division. This is about building a system where Africans hold their own history accountable and write their own future. You thought it was just currency and internet? Nah, bro. We're building courts, laws, warrants, and consequences, and they never saw it coming. Part 11, the final word. To all our Sabian family, especially members, this is why we exist. This is why we speak truth with comedy, with heat, and with zero apologies. Because the real battle isn't physical, it's narrative warfare. It's about who gets to define Africa. And now Africa is defining itself in gold, in code, and in court. They wanted to play dirty? Well, now they're facing African lawfare. If they sabotage AfroGold, we'll tag their passports. If they touch Afronet, we'll leak their private deals. And if they try a coup, we'll see them in the AU Supreme Law Court. Tisu Vanhu Vacho. This is the new Africa, and we're just getting started.
All right, we got it. We got it. Boy, I tell you, if you don't see this by now, I don't know what to tell you. That it is on and popping. And found gold mountain in Burkina Faso. Dude, man, my people, there's so much wealth that is going to be found, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. It is just unfucking real as to what is going on. Hold on, let me see. Okay. Now this one is a little bit long. It's running a little bit late. I don't want to be here, but you can see what it's about. Just click it, you put it into the box, and it will play. So I know I'm running a little bit late, and I don't want to do that. So I'm gonna paste it and put it into the chat, so that way you can see it. And for those who are here, I really appreciate you sticking that around. But we don't really have that much time to try to see this whole thing as a half an hour long. I want to try to end it at 4 hours. So if we can get rid of this one, it'll work. But then again, on Saturday, I might play this one. So I'll reserve that one. Hold on. Save NWMB. All right, so I know on Saturday night where to go to bring it back up, and we'll play it because I'm not gonna have that many videos on Saturday night at 8 o'clock. But in between now and then, it'll be a nice little chunk, and maybe 60 videos or so. I'm covering a lot tonight. So, the first leader removed under Africa's Supreme Law. New government installed today. This is not a joke, guys. Not a joke.
Shock. First leader removed under Africa's Supreme Law. New government installed today. I am Takunda Mavika with Supreme Africa Breaking News. Before we dive in, family, remember to like, share, and subscribe so we can keep this fire burning. Let's reach the rest of Africa together. This is not just headlines. This is the comedy drama of a rich, united Africa unfolding in real time. Earlier on SAN, we reported that the Supreme Law of Africa was officially passed, a law designed to remove leaders who betray the people by making shady deals with foreign powers.
Boom.
Well, family, today, that law has just tasted its first victim. A sitting president has been removed overnight. The AU has confirmed a new caretaker government is in place. And trust me, from the way Shadow Unit Zulu leaked the files to the way the streets celebrated, this was less like a coup and more like a roast comedy special.
Hold on.
Part 1. Shadow Unit Zulu drops the bomb. According to our trusted insiders, Shadow Unit Zulu intercepted bank transfers showing this leader had been negotiating with NATO contractors for a new foreign base. Offshore accounts in Switzerland were opened in his cousin's name. But the best part? The voice notes. In one recording, he whispered, "My people will never know." Shadow Unit Zulu captioned the leak. Breaking news. Your people know now, Uncle. The files spread like wildfire across AU servers. Insiders said AU delegates were literally wiping tears of laughter as they scrolled through the evidence. One memo even had a title page that Zulu had renamed Supreme Law, Season 1, Episode 1. Hash Part 2, AU Midnight Session, the Roast Parliament. At midnight, AU Parliament gathered in Addis. But this wasn't your standard stiff meeting. Insiders said it felt like a roast battle. Delegates were chewing roasted maize, sipping mahiwu, and cracking jokes as the evidence rolled on giant screens. One stood up and said, "Remove him by breakfast. I don't want him stealing lunch as well." The chamber erupted. The vote was unanimous. Operation Supreme Dawn was greenlit. Part 3. Operation Supreme Dawn. At 3 a.m., the One Africa Army rolled quietly into the capital. No tanks firing, no drama, just precision. At 3:15 a.m., the leader's phone switched off permanently when Afronet scrambled his SIM card. At 3:30 a.m., his guards received memes on WhatsApp, his own face photoshopped onto a suitcase being dragged out. At 4 a.m., soldiers entered the palace calmly. They found him trying to stuff gold bars into his overnight bag. One soldier reportedly laughed,
Listen.
"Boss, that's not luggage, that's Afro gold tax." By sunrise, he was escorted out of the palace like an uncle too drunk at a wedding, politely, but firmly. At Part 4, the failed escape attempts, Shadow Unit Zulu leaked the comedy highlight reel. Attempt 1, disguise. He wore sunglasses and a cheap wig. The wig slipped off as soon as he started running. Locals shouted, "Supreme Law Bald Edition." Attempt 2, convoy. He tried to speed out in black SUVs. Boda Boda riders blocked the road, demanding Afro Gold toll tax. Convoy had to stop. Attempt 3, bribery. He offered a soldier $50,000 cash.
Listen.
The soldier threw the dollars in the air like confetti and said, "Boss, this is just toilet paper." Kids collected the notes to make paper planes. By that point, even his own driver started laughing. Part 5, the streets react. The capital city woke up not to fear, but to joy. In Lagos, DJs blasted Amapiano with lyrics edited on the spot. One Africa, don't play, Supreme Law all the way. In Nairobi, Boda riders formed a parade shouting, "One gone, 90 to go." In Johannesburg, students wheeled around an empty chair labeled Western Puppet. On TikTok, a challenge went viral called Supreme Law Challenge. People filmed themselves dragging chairs out of their houses, shouting, "Next." Part 6, the new government. By midday, AU appointed justices swore in a caretaker team. The ceremony wasn't dry. Insiders say the humor flowed too. One minister said, "First order, repaint the presidential toilet. That man spent more time there than in cabinet meetings." Another said, "I'm here to manage the economy, but don't ask me to manage vibes. That's Shadow Unit Zulu's job." The crowd cheered, laughing and clapping like it was a festival. Part 7, Western Panic. Meanwhile, Western capitals panicked like it was the apocalypse. In Washington, Pentagon analysts screamed into microphones, they can remove leaders overnight while eating cold McDonald's. Africans memed it, dollar menu crisis. In London, bankers spilled tea on their suits. Memes captioned, "Spill tea, lose leaders." In Paris, a minister dropped his croissant mid-bite. Africans laughed, "Keep your pastries, we'll keep our presidents." Markets trembled. CNN tried reporting, but Africans just clipped the videos into TikTok comedy edits. Part 8, Shadow Unit Zulu's meme. Arsenal Zulu operatives went wild. They plastered evidence files with captions. Episode 1 completed. Episode 2 loading. They even hacked a European bank website so that anyone logging in saw the message, Afro Gold or nothing. The people loved it. Graffiti appeared in capitals. Zulu is watching. Supreme Law don't sleep. Part 9, the domino effect. Insiders say at least 3 more leaders are under investigation. Street memes exploded instantly. Meme 1, African presidents lined up like contestants in Big Brother Africa. Caption, "Who's next to be evicted?" Meme 2, leaders hiding under desks. AU soldiers checking IDs like nightclub bouncers. Meme 3, a wheelbarrow labeled "Next President's Ride Home." The fear is real. The laughter is louder. The sweet dream of Africa. But behind the comedy is the dream. For the first time in history, Africa has a law that removes leaders for betrayal, instantly. No IMF judge, no Western envoy, no fake elections. Just Africa's supreme law. Imagine this future. Presidents who sell minerals are gone overnight. Leaders who pocket oil money wake up locked out of their palaces. Governments that betray Africa replaced by technocrats who build hospitals, schools, and railways. The sweet dream is accountability, enforced by law and celebrated with laughter. Outro. Today, family, history was made. The first leader has been removed under the supreme law. A caretaker government is in place. The streets are laughing, the people are celebrating, and Africa is showing the world that it can govern itself with both seriousness and jokes. I am Takunda Mabika with Sabien, the insider who brings you the leaks, the laughter, and the loud truth. Tisu Vanhu Vacho. Africa is united, Africa is rising, and Africa is enforcing the supreme law with memes, boda bodas, and Afro gold.
Shadow Unit Zulu, baby. And there it is. Wow. So as we're coming down to the last few videos, I just want you to know that I believe in us. I believe, and I know we are on the verge and cusp of taking over. In every realm, spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical, in every way, political, economic, spiritual, and physical, militarily. It's over, you guys. It's over. It is over. So this video is called Breaking. First country joins AfriNet outside Africa. Let's get it.
Breaking. First country joins AfriNet from outside Africa. Global internet shift begins. By Takunda Mabika. Supreme Africa breaking news. Tisu Vanhu Vacho. Today, my brothers and sisters, Africa's AfriNet, the digital fortress we built to protect our continent's data, currency, and future, has just made history. For the first time, a country outside Africa has officially joined AfriNet. And this is not just a handshake and a press photo. This is a full integration into the world's most secure continental internet system. The message is clear. AfriNet is no longer just Africa's network. It is becoming the backbone of a new global digital order. Part 1. The country that made the leap. After weeks of speculation, sources inside the AU confirm that the first non-African nation to join AfriNet is Brazil. Yes, Brazil, the South American giant, a BRICS member, and a country with its own long history of clashing with Western-controlled internet giants.
Hold on.
This didn't happen overnight. Talks began quietly over 6 months ago between the African Union's Digital Transformation Directorate and Brazil's Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation. The Brazilians had one goal: escape the constant surveillance of Western intelligence agencies and regain control of their own digital infrastructure. Node Master Vega, an AfriNet network architect who oversaw the integration, says the Brazilians were impressed by Project Obsidian Shield, AfriNet's AI-driven firewall that recently blocked Western intelligence access to African data. They wanted that same level of protection, and they wanted it fast. Part 2. How they joined. This was not a symbolic deal. It was a digital sovereignty agreement that included installation of AfriNet gateway nodes in Brasilia and São Paulo, migration of all Brazilian government communications through AfriNet's encrypted backbone, routing of national banking and AfroGold trade transactions via AU-controlled servers. Major Essie Dlamini, head of AfriNet's cyber defense unit inside the One Africa Army, says integration was so smooth it surprised even the AU technicians. Once the nodes were live, secure traffic began flowing instantly between Africa and Brazil without touching Western-controlled servers. Part 3. Why Brazil made the move. The decision was driven by 3 main factors. 1. Cybersecurity. Brazil has faced repeated cyber attacks traced to Western IP addresses. 2. Economic independence. Joining AfriNet allows Brazil to trade with Africa using AfroGold, bypassing the US dollar. 3. Political sovereignty. AfriNet guarantees that no foreign power can monitor Brazilian government communications without detection. Protocol Ivory, an AU diplomatic courier who helped deliver classified agreements to Brazil, says Brazilian officials were most interested in the AfroGold payment channels. They saw it as a way to shield their economy from Western sanctions and currency manipulation. Part 4. The switch-on moment. The integration happened at exactly 3 GMT. Afronet's engineers in Addis Ababa initiated the handshake with Brazil's gateway nodes. In less than 60 seconds, Brazilian government data traffic began flowing through African-controlled circuits. By ER302, the first encrypted video conference between AU headquarters and Brazil's presidential palace was live. No Western telecom carrier touched the data. Cypher K, the cybersecurity engineer behind Afronet's core AI systems, called it a clean jump. 0 packet loss, 0 interference. Part 5, the Western... reaction. By sunrise in Europe, the alarms were ringing. In Washington, the State Department called it a dangerous precedent that could fragment the global internet. In London, intelligence briefings warned that Afronet expansion would make surveillance of global South nations far more difficult. In Brussels, EU officials described it as a digital iron curtain, a term they once used against Russia and China, now being applied to Africa. Shadow Comet, an intelligence operative monitoring Western reaction, says some NATO cyber units have already begun probing Afronet's new Brazil connection for weaknesses. But so far, they've been locked out completely. Part 6, Global South applause. Outside the West, the reaction has been very different. Moscow publicly congratulated Brazil and the AU, calling it a step toward a multipolar digital world. In Beijing, state media ran headlines celebrating the end of what they call Anglo-American internet colonialism. And across the global South, from Indonesia to Argentina, governments are reportedly sending quiet feelers to Addis Ababa to discuss possible Afrinet membership. Part 7. The African Street Response. Africans online are celebrating like Brazil just won the World Cup. Hashtags like AfriNet Goes Global and Fortress Internet are trending. In Lagos, a tech blogger wrote that this is the first time Africa is exporting not just raw materials, but world-class digital infrastructure. In Cape Town, a mural appeared overnight showing a giant Afrinet cable stretching from Africa to Brazil, painted in the colors of both continents' flags. Part 8. Comedy in the corridors. Even in the serious AU Integration Command Center, there were laughs. When the first secure call connected between Addis Ababa and Brasilia, an AU engineer joked that now, if Brazilian footballers want to talk transfer deals, they can do it without the CIA listening in. Protocol Ivory told SABN that during one of the setup meetings in Brazil, a local official asked if Afronet could also block his mother-in-law from checking his WhatsApp messages. Part 9. The bigger picture. Afrinet as a global player. This move marks the start of Afronet's transformation from a continental network to a global digital alliance. With one non-African member on board, the political barrier has been broken. Nodemaster Vega predicts at least 3 more countries will join within the next year, one from Asia, one from the Middle East, and one from Europe. Each will bring new technical challenges, but also strengthen Afronet's position as an alternative to Western internet infrastructure. Part 10. The economic ripple effect. Brazil's integration into Afrinet also means its trade with Africa can now bypass Western financial systems entirely. This is a huge boost for the AfroGold currency, which gains its first foothold outside the continent. Major Essi Blamini says the AU is already setting up AfroGold transaction hubs in Brazil to facilitate cross-continental trade. For African exporters, this means direct, secure payments without US dollar conversion fees. Part 11. The risk factor. Of course, this expansion carries risks. Western powers may attempt to retaliate with economic pressure or cyber attacks. Shadow Comet warns that Afronet's new nodes in Brazil will become high-priority targets for sabotage. But Cypher K is confident the network can handle it. Obsidian Shield's adaptive AI is now monitoring every connection between Africa and Brazil, ready to shut down any suspicious traffic in milliseconds. Part 12. The cliffhanger. As we close, remember this. Afronet was built to protect Africa. Today, it started protecting the world. Brazil is only the beginning, And if the whispers from Addis are true, one of the next countries to join is not in the global south. It's a European nation tired of Washington's grip on its data. If that happens, the entire structure of the global internet will change forever. This is Takunda Mabika, Supreme Africa Breaking News. Tisu Van Hubacho. Stay watching, because the next AfriNet handshake might just make history all over again.
There it is. There it is. It's going to be funny, man, but in a very good way. It not only opened the door to control of data, of speed, of everything, it also gives Africa and black folks control of the doorway to whatever the future may hold for the internet and what that means and how it changes over time. You understand? So now we are in the driver's seat. Now we are in control. And now in this video, you will see World Reaction. Africa now requires global corporation to pay taxes in Afro fucking gold, bitches. And not dollars, not euro, not nothing. Fuck you, white boy. Let's go.
Africa now requires global corporations to pay taxes in AfroGold. I am Takunda Mabika with Supreme Africa Breaking News. Before we get into today's bombshell, family, remember to like, share, and subscribe so we can keep this fire burning. Let's reach every corner of Africa together. This is more than news. This is a new Rich Africa movement. Earlier, we reported here on SABN that the One Africa government had frozen trillions in Western assets across the continent.
Boom.
Big names like Shell, Barclays, Anglo American, Total Energies locked down by AU order. Today, after days of desperate phone calls, sweaty diplomats, and executives nearly crying at AU headquarters, we can confirm the AU's answer. From today forward, all global corporations must pay taxes in AfroGold. Not in dollars, not in euros, not in pounds, only AfroGold. The rule is clear, the enforcement is active, and the world is reacting like a house on fire. Part 1. Shadow Unit Zulu leak. According to our insiders at Shadow Unit Zulu, AU intelligence discovered corporate plots to sneak assets out of Africa. Barclays had already lined up accounts in Switzerland. Shell was eyeing offshore havens. Anglo American and De Beers started shuttling diamonds to vaults in London. Zulu hacked the communications, intercepted the files, and leaked them to AU Parliament. Within 48 hours, African leaders moved with surgical precision, assets frozen, bank accounts sealed, and corporate headquarters visited by AU soldiers carrying laptops and padlocks. The message? Africa is awake. Part 2. The AfroGold Decree. The African Union passed the AfroGold Revenue Decree with unanimous support. Its terms are simple. All corporations in Africa must pay taxes in AfroGold only. AfroGold is backed by Africa's gold reserves, which are now secured by One Africa Army units. Dollars, euros, pounds are unacceptable for tax purposes. Attempts to dodge AfroGold payments result in immediate seizure of all assets.
Boom.
One Africa Army soldiers are already stationed at corporate headquarters in Johannesburg, Nairobi, Lagos, Kinshasa, and Cairo, armed, calm, and ready to enforce the decree. Part 3. The Comedy of Diplomats. Western diplomats rushed to Addis Ababa, red-faced and sweating in suits not designed for the African sun. They carried folders of legal jargon, thinking they could twist arms. Instead, AU officials greeted them with roasted maize and cold mahewu, smiled and asked, "How many tons of AfroGold have your corporations delivered today?" One diplomat nearly collapsed when told, flat out, "Your frozen accounts will remain frozen unless AfroGold is paid." Back in Washington, officials shouted into microphones. In London, bankers spilled tea on their shoes. In Paris, ministers held emergency meetings while eating croissants in silence. Part 4. Western Panic Rooms. In boardrooms across the West, CEOs panicked. Screens flashed red warnings. AfroGold required. Non-compliance detected. Executives clutched their heads, muttering up. But what is AfroGold? Where do we even get it? One American mining CEO reportedly screamed, "Do they expect me to mine gold to pay taxes?" To which an AU delegate responded calmly, "Exactly. That's how it works. The comedy writes itself." Part 5. Operation Gold Fist. To enforce the decree, the One Africa Army launched Operation Gold Fist. Soldiers secure corporate vaults. Drones patrol mining towns. Shadow Unit Zulu scans digital transfers. Special courts fast-track corporate cases. Already, assets worth billions have been seized. A French oil boss's Cape Town mansion is now AU property, guarded by soldiers who turned his swimming pool into a fish pond. In Botswana, an American executive was escorted off a diamond field with only his suitcase. Soldiers grilled Nyama on his confiscated barbecue that same evening. Part 6. Street reactions. On the streets, Africans are laughing and celebrating. In Lagos, traders shout, "Let Shell bring Afro Gold like everybody else." In Nairobi, Boda riders joke, "Imagine CEOs riding Boda Boda to AU offices with gold bars on their laps." In Johannesburg, memes trend showing Western bankers in wheelbarrows full of Afro gold, sweating under African sun. Across TikTok, AU soldiers dance next to frozen corporate buildings, captioned "Afro Gold or Nothing." Part 7. Why Afro Gold? The AU's logic is sharp. For decades, corporations drained Africa's minerals, paying taxes in weak paper money. Inflation ate value, but Africa got crumbs. Afro Gold changes the game. Taxes are locked to real value, directly tied to Africa's reserves. This forces corporations to respect the continent's wealth. No more hiding behind fluctuating dollar values. No more offshore dodges. Africa collects in its own currency, backed by its own gold. And AfroGold is already in pilot use across AU projects. Soon it will roll out fully, making today's decree the opening shot in a global financial revolution. Part 8. Shadow Unit Zulu's comedy leaks. Shadow Unit Zulu leaked a hilarious memo from a European bank. In it, executives begged for a loophole, suggesting Africa accept gold-backed euros. The AU laughed so hard the document is now pinned in AUHQ like a comedy poster. Another leak showed US lobbyists asking if Afro Gold payments could be delayed. The AU's response was one line: "You delay, we seize." Part 9. The bigger picture experts say Africa has just reprogrammed global finance. By forcing Afro Gold, the AU undermines the US dollar as Africa's reserve currency. It creates global demand for Afro Gold, strengthening its legitimacy. It sets a precedent for other regions. Imagine Asia or South America demanding gold-based taxes. The West is terrified of a domino effect. If the global South unites under gold-backed systems, the dollar's era may collapse like a sandcastle in high tide.
Don't waste money on another pair of glasses until you've seen what this breakthrough can do. These self-adjustable glasses are taking the world by...
Part 10. The Sweet Dream. The AU calls this the Sweet Dream Decree. Imagine this future. AfroGold taxes fund continental railways, not IMF loans. AfroGold payments build hospitals, schools, and research labs. AfroGold revenues create African satellites, African factories, African tech giants. The dream is not far. Today's decree is the first stone in Africa's golden foundation. Today, the AfroGold Decree is the word. Corporations must comply or lose everything. Western powers may rage, diplomats may sweat, bankers may faint, but Africa is united. I am Takunda Mabika, SABN, the insider who brings you the leaks, the laughter, and the light of Africa's rise. Tisu Vanhu Vacho. Africa is rich, Africa is united, and today Africa is writing the rules with AfroGold.
All right, we're going down to the last two here. Now, let me say this without a doubt, that Chikambuso, who created the car that doesn't need oil or petroleum, it runs off of the air. This young man is the very backbone of the future of Africa. Not just him, there are others as well. And you're talking about brand new, spanking new, high-tech technology that is beyond your thinking, that's going to be coming out of Africa, and 7,000 children of Africa have come back home to rebuild, living a plush life throughout Europe and America. They said, fuck that shit. And this is the very reason why Africa has gone to the moon and back. Because of blackness, because of black intellect, because of black intelligence. Now all of that is coming back home. So, with that coming back home, let's see what was going on in Europe, where they were attacking and committing racist attacks, and see how the AU responded. I'll be right back.
Emergency. Racist attacks on Africans abroad. One Africa sends shock warning to Europe. By Takunda Mabika, Supreme Africa Breaking News. Tisu Vanhu Vacho. This is not just a report. This is a cry from the soul of a continent. In a story developing faster than international headlines can catch up, the African Union has issued a classified diplomatic warning to several European governments after a disturbing rise in violent and discriminatory attacks against African nationals across major European cities. The message? Africa will no longer remain silent. Let's unpack this emotional, political, and international earthquake from the streets of Paris and Berlin to the chambers of the AU. Part 1. A wave of violence. Over the last 3 months, reports have surged of Africans being violently targeted in France, Italy, Germany, Poland, and the UK. The incidents range from verbal abuse to brutal beatings, unlawful detentions, housing discrimination, and in at least 2 confirmed cases, murder. In Berlin, a Nigerian student was stabbed outside a train station after being called racial slurs. In Naples, a Ghanaian street vendor was beaten by a mob of football fans during a public celebration, with police reportedly watching without intervening. In Paris, a Congolese woman was denied emergency medical services after being told, "You people abuse our hospitals." These stories are not isolated. They are part of a growing, dangerous pattern, and Africa is watching. Part 2. The AU's official warning. In an emergency closed-door session, AU diplomats voted unanimously to issue a formal, continental-level alert against what they call hostile treatment of African citizens abroad. The alert was sent to France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Poland, the United Kingdom. According to our insider chairman Shadow, the AU's Department of Political Affairs and Security has threatened to review all bilateral diplomatic treaties with countries where African nationals are systematically targeted with no recourse to justice. A portion of the leaked memo reads, open quote, "We will not allow the children of Africa to be hunted like animals while we shake hands with those responsible. There must be justice or there will be consequences." Close quote. Part 3, social media on fire. Within hours, the AU's move went viral across an X, formerly Twitter, with hashtags like Protect Africans Abroad, Africa is Watching, Justice for Adama, One Africa Warning. A viral video of an Ethiopian man in Poland crying after being beaten by neo-Nazis is now being reshared with captions like, "If this was a European in Africa, CNN would be camped outside." Afrobeat artists, Pan-African activists, and even some African footballers playing in Europe have joined the outrage, releasing emotional posts calling for accountability from host governments, legal support for victims, permanent AU embassies with protection powers. Part 4, the human cost. Meet Adama Sumahoro, a 27-year-old Burkinabe construction worker living in Marseille, France. Last week, he was found unconscious in an alley after being assaulted by 3 men who allegedly screamed, "Go back to your jungle." He now lies in a coma. His mother, speaking from Bobo Dioulasso, broke down in tears live on TV. Open quote, "I sent my son to build a life. I never thought I would bury him from afar." Close quote. Unfortunately, her pain is shared by too many African families watching their loved ones be reduced to statistics in foreign lands. Part 5. AU's 3 demands to Europe. In the same confidential document, the AU reportedly made 3 non-negotiable demands to affected European governments. 1. Public condemnation of racist violence. Not just general statements. They want each government to name and condemn attacks on Africans specifically. 2. Prosecution of perpetrators. A database of ongoing cases involving African victims is being compiled, and the AU will publish a scorecard of how many have seen justice. 3. Independent monitoring system. The AU is proposing an African Citizens Abroad watchdog office with diplomatic presence in key European cities, empowered to file direct reports. If these demands are not met within 90 days, the AU has hinted at targeted diplomatic and trade consequences. Part 6. Europe's response so far. The initial European response has been, let's say, diplomatic but dismissive. France issued a vague statement, open quote, "We condemn all forms of racism, xenophobia, and intolerance in our society," close quote. The UK said, open quote, "We are committed to ensuring the safety of all people living in the UK, regardless of race or nationality," close quote. But as AU insiders point out, no country has directly acknowledged the wave of African-specific attacks. They're treating this like background noise, one AU official said, but they'll hear us now. Part 7. Diaspora in Fear. African students, workers, and families across Europe are now living in fear. In Brussels, a Kenyan nurse reportedly quit her job after being followed and threatened. In Athens, Zimbabwean migrant workers have gone into hiding after police raids targeted their neighborhoods. And in Paris, a Ugandan pastor was evicted after his landlord cited community discomfort. It's a silent purge, one that Africans in Europe say has become psychologically violent and physically dangerous. Part 8, why now? The big question is, why is this wave happening now? Some believe it's tied to global anti-immigrant sentiment. Others believe African economic and political rising power is triggering backlash. One political analyst told SAN, open quote, "When Africa was weak and begging, they gave us crumbs. Now that we're organizing AfroGold, Afronet, One Africa government, they fear us," close quote. So now, the sons and daughters of the continent are being targeted, not for what they've done, but for what Africa is becoming. Part 9. The One Africa government's response. A commission officials have reportedly escalated the matter to the African Union's Transitional Executive Council for urgent action. And according to insiders, the One Africa government has formed a rapid legal defense fund, a multi-million-dollar program to pay for African victims of abuse abroad. This fund will hire top human rights lawyers across Europe, launch civil lawsuits against cities or police departments, sponsor awareness campaigns in native languages. An early campaign slogan, "You touch one, you touch us all."
Boom.
Part 10. If we don't protect our own, who will? That's the question activists are now asking in cities across Africa. At the University of Lagos, students held a vigil for Africans attacked abroad. In Nairobi, the One Africa Student Council has called for an African Identity Week, promoting pride, justice, and economic independence. In Accra, church leaders gave sermons titled "The Dignity of the African Soul." This moment is no longer just about stopping racism. It's about claiming full dignity. Part 11. We built their cities. They burn our lives. A viral spoken word video by a young Togolese poet sums it all up. Open quote. "We built their railways. We cleaned their offices. We healed their sick. But when they see us walking proud in their streets, they panic. Why? Because they know what's coming. Africa's back." Close quote. It ends with the line, "Next time you raise a fist at one of us, be ready to answer to 55 nations. Part 12. Final word. Time to choose sides. To our African brothers and sisters in Europe, we see you. You are not alone. To the European governments turning a blind eye, that time is ticking. Either you protect Africans, or Africa will protect itself. And to the people watching this video across the continent, now is the time to stand up. Smash that like button if you believe no African should fear for their life abroad. Subscribe to stay ahead of the truth. Comment below. Should the African Union recall ambassadors from countries that allow racist attacks? Tisu Banhu Vacho. One Africa, one voice, one fight. Let the world know. The era of silence is over.
All right, we're down to the last one. And I'll be giving my final comments. And this is what I was talking about earlier, and how Africa has taken control of the Suez Canal. West, or white folk, are completely cut off. So, whoever you are that's watching, thank you for staying, and I really appreciate it. Hopefully, I'm hoping that you enjoyed the program, and please subscribe and like and share the video. It'll help the algorithm and allow the channel to be more known. So with that, Let's go at it and see what's going on with this Suez Canal.
One Africa army just took control of the Suez Canal. West completely cut off. By Takunda Mabika. Supreme Africa breaking news. Pisu Van Uvacho. The defenders of Africa are wide awake, and if you thought Africa was still just attending conferences and sipping bottled water while the West played Monopoly with our resources, nope. Today, Africa didn't just join the game. We flipped the board. Because according to an exclusive leak from not one, but two of our insiders, General Umoja and Protocol Black, the African Union has just placed one Africa Army forces in joint control of the Suez Canal. That's right. The traffic jam of the century is about to get a brand new traffic cop, and he's wearing AU camouflage. Part 1. The secret meeting that changed everything. Last week, deep inside AU headquarters in Addis Ababa, a special emergency summit was called, not on the public calendar. No press releases. Even the caterers had to sign NDAs. On the agenda, a single line in bold, Suez Corridor, African Maritime Sovereignty. According to General Umoja, the atmosphere in the room was tense. On one side of the table, Egypt's delegation led by Admiral Mahmoud Fathi, head of the Suez Canal Authority. On the other, AU chairperson João Lourenço, flanked by senior One Africa Army generals and naval commanders. Egypt opened with a cautious proposal, joint patrols along the Red Sea to combat piracy and safeguard cargo ships. But the AU team? They wanted more. They wanted direct operational presence inside the Suez Canal traffic control centers. They wanted AU flagships positioned at both Port Said in the north and Suez City in the south. And most of all, they wanted an iron guarantee that no African shipment could ever be blocked or delayed by external pressures. Translation, Western sanctions or political games. The Egyptians hesitated. Then, after 3 hours of closed-door bargaining, a handshake. The deal was signed under what insiders are calling the African Maritime Freedom Pact. Part 2. The first AU soldiers at the Suez. 2 days later, quietly and without fanfare, the first One Africa Army naval security team boarded a flight to Cairo. From there, military transport carried them to the canal. No parades, no loud announcements, just a new patch on the uniforms reading OAA, Maritime Command. Inside the Port Said control room, AU officers were briefed on traffic management, cargo scanning, and emergency procedures. But according to Protocol Black, these briefings were mostly formalities. The AU had already been tracking every ship entering the canal via satellite for over a year. One AU officer reportedly joked, "We've been watching this place from the sky. Now we're just here to drink their coffee and plug in our own computers." Part 3. Why this move changes everything. For decades, the Suez Canal has been the world's shortcut between Europe and Asia. 12% of all global trade passes through it. Oil, gas, electronics, even your fancy smartphone parts, all sail through those waters. By securing a joint operational role, the AU has effectively placed Africa in the heart of one of the most strategic choke points on Earth. This means no more Western bypassing of African trade lanes. Direct AU oversight of shipments heading to and from Africa. The ability to prioritize African cargo during global crises. General Umoja told us bluntly, this is about leverage. The West has always had it. Now Africa has it too. Part 4, the Western panic button. The leak of this operation didn't come from Africa. Oh no, it came from London, where a senior shipping insurance executive spilled the beans over drinks. Within hours, Bloomberg and Reuters were running exclusive alerts about African forces now active in the Suez. By sunrise in Paris and Washington, calls were flying between Western trade ministries. A leaked email from a European trade advisor literally read, "If Africa can slow our goods at the Suez, they can control our supply chains." Translation, they're sweating. Part 5, African street reactions, comedy gold. In Nairobi, one Boda Boda rider said, "So now even my onions from Mombasa to Cairo have VIP security? Next time, I want to send myself through the canal too." In Lagos, a street vendor laughed. "We took back the gold, the oil, the diamonds. Now we're taking the water." Next stop, London Bridge. Even in Harare, My neighbor's uncle, who hasn't been to the sea in his life, told me, Takunda, tell them to also send AU soldiers to my borehole. Too many people are drawing from it without clearance. Part 6. The Quiet Billionaire Influence. This move wasn't purely military. Our insiders confirm African billionaires like Strive Masiyiwa and Patrice Motsepe have been quietly lobbying for African maritime sovereignty for years. Why? Because control of sea lanes means cheaper, safer shipping for African-owned companies. No more paying security premiums to Western firms just to move goods through African-linked waters. Masiyiwa's Liquid Telecom is reportedly preparing secure data link between Suez control centers and AU headquarters, ensuring real-time monitoring of every vessel relevant to African trade. Part 7. What happens next? The African Maritime Freedom Pact has a 6-month review clause. If both AU and Egypt agree, Africa's role in the Suez could expand to full African-led security patrols in the southern Red Sea, training Egyptian crews in AU naval protocols, integrating Suez operations with the One Africa Navy Command in Djibouti. And yes, insiders say Djibouti is the next hotspot. Part 8. Western alternative routes, already failing. As soon as the news broke, Western trade officials floated the idea of rerouting shipments via the Cape of Good Hope at the southern tip of Africa. Problem? That route adds 2 to 3 weeks to shipping times. Fuel costs skyrocket. And here's the kicker. The Cape route is already patrolled by AU naval forces under a different maritime agreement. So in short, there is no escape. Part 9. African Unity in Action. From Cape Town to Cairo, social media is flooded with AU flags, memes of African generals directing ship traffic, and jokes about charging toll fees in Afro gold. One trending post simply reads, "Dear West, your cargo is safe, but we are in charge now, regards Africa." Part 10. The Big Picture. This is not just about ships, it's about psychology. For decades, the West has assumed Africa must always pass through their gates to trade. Today, Africa walked into one of the West's gates and took a seat at the security desk. And here's the real twist. Most of the world still doesn't realize the AU now has this leverage, which means, for now, the power shift is silent, strategic, and completely African.
Wow. You ain't seen shit yet. All right, that's a wrap. Hold on. Stop sharing. So we've gone through almost 4 hours. I'm going to end it at 4, but a little bit less than 4 because my eyes are about to close. But I appreciate whoever you are who are still here and who will see this, know for a fact that the black man is back. Black supremacy, black superiority is on the rise. That cannot be stopped. When the black man speak, sit your ass down, white boy. Pay attention because you done fucked up. How you fucked up, I don't know, and I don't give a fuck how it go. But you done had the world on the palm of your hand. And see how God works? Evil will always destroy itself in the end, and those who partake in it. Always, ALWAYS, and in always, ALLWAYS. You're not the one. We've gone through this shit with you 2 times before. This is the 3rd strike. One in Egypt, one in Greece and Rome, and now after Spain. So fuck it and fuck you. God has said, I'm killing your motherfucking asses. This is it. Keep your hands off my children. But don't worry, be happy. We got you. We're gonna fuck you up. And you got that ass whooping coming. The sins of the mother and father are always visited upon the children. Just the way it is. Karma's a bitch, ain't it? So, with all of that being said, I'm going to end it with this. Fuck all white folk. I'll see y'all on Saturday night at 8 o'clock. Don't be late. And please share this YouTube channel. It is on and popping, baby.